main agenda is we're looking to partner stronger, better economy in Bucks County. We had a recent legislator day. Representative Stats has been very, very helpful and proactive. He is now chairing the education subcommittee on CTE for the state. And we've worked very closely with the ADC for years in terms of apprenticeships. We have a long, proud history with them. And we have an opportunity to strengthen and take that partnership to a whole new level, which will impact the budget. Preliminary talks, again, similar philosophies, looking to either create a new building where there's offices or training site up to maybe 6.5 million. We said, why not come back home to the technical school and partner and create opportunities. And again, I don't want to go over that a lot right now because it'll be during the JOC meeting, but Representative Stats, would you like to add anything to
that? Yeah, sure. And thank you, Dr. Hurley. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, some good news is that we just got our committee assignments out in Harrisburg last week. And I'm back on the education committee, which I've served on for my 9th year now. And they reappointed me to the CTE subcommittee. So I'm real excited about that. So we can continue our work here, which is outstanding. I'm also a deputy chair of the policy committee, where we go around the state and have hearings on all different sorts of subjects. So my plan is to have a hearing on CTE right here at Upper Bucks. We have some dates we're going to present to you, and we'll see what works for everybody involved. And that's where they're typically about 2 hours. They're live streamed. We would have different educators, CET instructors. I think it would be a great idea if we could find a past student that has graduated and have a success story for everybody. So we'll talk about that more. But that is upcoming. Looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great way to showcase the tech school here and get whatever issues you have out on the table, and we can see whatever legislation we could possibly introduce to make things better here.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Mr. Conoctor, would you like to say anything?
We've struggled in the trades where 4 of our companies carpenter. We also have quite a few welders that came out of this facility and others. We've struggled with training the kids for 30 years coming to the trades, and there's still such a chasm of between needs and skills. You know, anything that we do to help fill that, it's good for the country, it's good for the community, it's good for everybody. So we've been big supporters for years, and I'm so glad to see that the schools has such demand after so long struggling to attract the kids that we need.
Sounds like some good testimony for an upcoming hearing.
I think you've been volunteered.
Mr. Haley?
Yeah, no, we've been working with Upper Bucks Go Tech for a number of years. We have a number of guys who come on board with us from Upper Bucks and have gone through the ABC apprenticeship program and are now journey people, and even making their way to foremen and possibly superintendents as well. So it's fantastic that the demand is there, that you see the students starting to come back into the trades, and hopefully there's some synergy there that we can really capitalize on.
So we have the 2 reports, the 2030 Commission on Education and Economic Competitiveness, and that's through Senator Ahmed, and it's bringing, again, education economy, changing it around, that we're very proud of. And then another recent report, which came from a variety of different sources, unfortunately puts us, Pennsylvania, in terms of high quality CTE, 36 out of the 50 states. That students that have, luckily with strong leadership, JOC guidance, we are way above that 6.78% statistic that students are participating in CTE. You'll hear tonight during our main agenda on how many students that we have on co-op that are prospering. You'll hear about our students that are on the waiting list. the commitment and strong leadership that the JOC demonstrated last year during the budget to make sure that we get as many kids as possible those opportunities. And we were blessed to have a record number of applicants this year. We just began placement. And so we made a joke at the beginning. When I was 12 years old, I had a newspaper route, learning in the snow, trying to get a couple dollars in the pocket. And our kids are making up to $23.60 an hour, close to $500,000 because of the guidance, the mentorship that you have provided in those opportunities. And I just wanted to kind of set the tone in committee. We'll be talking a lot more in the main JOC agenda. So thank you for coming, and anyone that's online. So Tanya, I'll turn it over to you for the, I don't want to start the audit.
Tonight we're going to have Mr. Hogan, Carl Hogan, from CBP, provide our 21-22 audit. Yeah.
So there's a, full draft of the audit that everybody had. We're in the process of finalizing it. Just like everybody, we're having staff shortages. The manager that was on this job actually put the council rock job and kind of put me in a little bit of a bind, but the audit's done, the numbers finalized. I'm just getting through the end of the audit process, but we think it, talking to Tanya and Michael about, it's really important to get these numbers out there because it's going to kind of, work into your budget process and where you were for the year ended June 30th, 2022. So the first, I'm going to kind of flip around a little bit on some of these pages. I'm just going to highlight, I have about 5 or 6 pages here, which I think are the most important pages in the audit report. And first pages I'm going to go over are pages 1, 2, and 3 of the audit report. This is our independent auditor's report, and the most important thing in the audit report, basically indicating that the number that were presented to us by management for the year ended June 30th, 2022 were fairly presented. If everybody's going to notice, this is a brand new audit report this year, exciting stuff, right? They basically changed the format of it. The biggest change of the audit report is the opinion paragraph. The opinion paragraph within the auditor's report. Now it's at the top of the audit report in terms of, it is the most important thing in the audit report in terms of, indicating that you had a clean audit report, unmodified audit report. A lot of those other sections in the audit report are the same. They're just expanded a little bit. Another change to the audit report is the change in accounting principle during the year. Just as like at your home districts, you implemented a new GASB 87 for leases. And that's indicated on page 1 there. They implemented that new GASB during the year. The other sections of the audit report outline responsibilities of management at the bottom of page 1. Top of page 2, auditor responsibilities. And this is one section of the audit report that has changed. Our responsibilities haven't changed as auditors. It's just been explicitly outlined within the auditor report, which wasn't previously done. So that everybody can see, there's 5 bullet points which outline our top 5 responsibilities as the auditor. And like I said before, they haven't changed. They've just now outlined them in the audit report. And the rest of the audit report kind of outlines what our responsibility we're taking for the different sections of the audit report. At the bottom of page 2, it talks about required supplementary information. And there's a section in the audit report called management's discussion and analysis, and that's kind of covered under required supplementary information. And I encourage everybody to read management's discussion and analysis. This was put together by management, pretty much outlining the financial highlights for the year. We don't audit management's discussion and analysis. We just kind of make sure it's consistent with the rest of the audit report on what was being reported to us during the reporting period. But like I said, it kind of puts things in concise terms instead of going through the whole 50-60 page document. In addition to the management's discussion analysis, one of the schedules we're going to go over here tonight is the general fund budget to actual schedule. This schedule is considered required supplementary information because of the fact that it had budgeted numbers in there. We don't audit the budget, we only audit the actual numbers. So hence why they're considering supplementary information, and it's in the back of the audit report. And then finally, the supplementary information that accompanies your financial statements. There are some combining statements regarding your production control account and some other, production accounts that you have that get consolidated within the checking account too. So the first statement I'm going to start with here today, and probably the most important, is that budgetary comparison schedule for the general fund, which is on page number 45.
You want me to still swing? You want-
Yeah, if you go to page 45.
Is there any way you can make that bigger, Mike?
It'd be helpful.
I mean, I for sure can't see it on here, but.
I have my glasses if you need. I'm gonna have to break them out myself.
Is that a little helpful?
Sure. Is there a way to make it full, like, partly to take up more of the screen?
If you change it to side by side on your Zoom view, the little view button in the upper right corner there, it gets a little bigger. Another button next to that one.
I can make it even,
But it's Mike's screen, so. Side by side, is that square?
It's the little square thing next to the square thing.
Oh.
The one that says view. You, if they switch sides side by side, I just gotta get rid of it. It makes it a little.
Side by side speaker or
That's good enough.
And then I don't know what I pushed.
gallery?
Gallery. Side by side gallery makes it a little bit bigger.
I'm good here. Thanks. If I get rid of this.
This is the budget actual schedule for the general fund. It's that where you get into, your budgeted amounts, your actual amounts and varying over what the budget amounts were year over year. If you could see at the top, you have your revenues. Your revenues are broken out into three distinct categories. Your local source revenues, which are predominantly made up of contributions from the school districts. Your state source revenues, which are made up of your vocational subsidy, plus any kind of other special grants that you may get from the state, in addition to retirement and social security reimbursements for the state's proportionate half. And then you have your federal source revenues, which has historically been just your Perkins grant, but now that the COVID money is also included within the federal sources for the current year. So as you can see up at the top, your local source revenues were $9.1 million. They came in lower. These are usually normally right on, but because of the fact that Quakertown and Penridge paid their debt service ahead of time, a reimbursement had to be made back to Penridge and Quakertown during the current year. So that was netted against their contributions, creating the negative revenue amount. So when that was paid back, it was netted against the original contributions, and hence the negative there. And that's being offset down below when we get down to debt service. The debt service has a positive variance of $300,000. So because you didn't have to make those debt service payments, they kind of offset together. And the negative in the revenues is offset by the positive within the debt service category. Your state source revenues were $200,000 more than budgeted, about 268. The biggest piece of that was a $200,000 equipment grant that you received during the year that wasn't originally budgeted. And then the federal source revenue, just like I spoke about before, was related to some of the extra COVID American Rescue Plan money that was received during the year that wasn't originally anticipated, that was received and then resulted in a $200,000 variance. So when you take the negative related to the local source revenues related to that reimbursement, and then the positive variances in state and federal, your total revenues were about $200,000 more than budget. I'm not going to go over every line item within the expenditures, but as you can see, within the expenditures, you're going to have some ups, you're going to have some downs related to some, programs, that other instructional programs there that was related to the negative variance that's there related to the COVID money and the programs that were set in place with that money during the year. So that wasn't so just like the positive variance up above and then the negative variance down below, which kind of offsets it. But as you keep on scrolling down, you're going to see on the right hand side, you have positive variances within a bunch of total expenditures. And ultimately, your total expenditures were $1.2 million. Less than budget of the $10.9 million that was budgeted. So of that $1.2 million, you have $300,000, which is related to that debt service. And then you have, we take the $300,000 out at 1.2, the actual expenditures were $900,000 less than they were actually budgeted. So when we actually take a look at it and we look at, specific variances, there's nothing in particular that's really standing out like big budget item. There were some vacancies during the year related to salaries and benefits that were under budget. In addition, there was just small items all over the place in terms of that were spent or underspent, especially as it pertains to operation and maintenance. Some of the contracted services were under budget, et cetera. So nothing really that stands out other than the 300,000 related to debt service. But all the other line items are kind of small, reported to you previously. As you come down, we have the other financing sources uses. Other financing sources uses were about $199,000. Of the other financing sources uses, you had $65,000 interfund transfer to the food service fund that didn't need to be made during the current year because the food service fund actually had a good year with the SSO program during the year. And then you didn't have to use the extraordinary item with the budgetary reserve that was originally anticipated to be used during the budget process. So during the budget process last year, you budgeted to use $566,000 of fund balance. You actually added $1 million of fund balance for a positive variance of $1.6 million. So beginning of the year, you had $2.7 million of fund balance and then $3.7 million once you add the additional $1 million during the year. And that's consistent with what Time's been reporting during the budget process. Anybody have any questions, concerns? So the next page I'm going to go over is page 17. Maybe 17, 15 is one, and then we're going to keep that. So 17 is basically the same information that we just went over to the general fund. We got the budget information, but I just wanted to highlight. Also during our audit, there's a capital projects fund, which there was no activity during the year other than the refunding of the amounts by Quakertown and vendors during the year for their proportionate share of the general obligation debt that was refunded, and that's kind of shown down there at the bottom. So there's approximately $130,000 of fund balance that's sitting in the capital reserve fund at year end. Next page I'm going to go over is page 15. Page number 15, this is the balance sheet. So we just went over the ins and the outs, we went over the expenditures, the excess of those revenues over the expenditures for the year. And this is as of a point in time, as of June 30th, 2022, what your assets or your current assets were, your current liabilities were, and the excess of those assets of the liabilities being your fund balance. So as you can see up at the top, your total assets were $4.7 million, which are predominantly made of liquid cash at your end. And then you have your liabilities. Your liabilities are predominantly made up of accrued salaries and benefits. There's timing issues in terms of there's certain benefits and salaries that are earned through June 30th and paid throughout the summer, and in addition paid to PSERS for retirement. So it's a timing issue in terms of when those salaries and benefits are earned and when they're actually paid. So all those liabilities at year end are current and paid shortly thereafter year end. And then the fund balance at the end of the year is segregated into separate categories.
Wait, see that. There you go.
So this is isn't the most up-to-date one, but it's segregated.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, the most recent one I sent you an email, Michael. I sent an email earlier with the fund balance when we segregated it out.
Are you talking the one Excel document that we just went over?
No, I
He sent an email,
sent a PDF with the.
the one that we have printed out, that I gave you as a printout.
That's what
He
it was.
emailed us as well. Sorry.
And will you resend that to me?
Absolutely.
Right, I just think it's important to kind of show the segregation between the
Yeah, absolutely.
area.
Yeah.
It's to help the budget conversation.
Tanya, can you copy the whole JOC so then we have it on our emails too, so you can pull it up later? Thanks.
It's crazy though, driving in tonight, it's like light out.
It's everything, yeah. And if you want.
Just, I can get a lot of farming done in that last one.
Yeah,
Like if they decide to keep it, they're not doing it, you know, then.
I don't care what they do, as long as they stay the same.
I just wanted to see my.
Okay. I'll forward it to the JOC as soon as it comes through.
I found their star. Everybody should have it.
Second to last page. Yep, right there. And then just scroll down a little bit more so you can see it. So there's. So as part of the audit process, or during the budget process last year, you have fund balance and you have to segregate that fund balance within the different categories, just like you do at your home districts. Within, non-spendable, restricted, committed, unassigned and unassigned. Here things are considered assigned. And of that $3.7 million fund balance we took out last year, there was assignments made during the budget process last year. So when you put your budget in place for 2022, 2023, that the year that you're in right now, your expenditures actually exceeded your revenues by $1.9 million of the use of fund balance during the budget process. And as you can see at the bottom there, during the 2022-2023 budget process, you used $919,000 of fund balance to balance the budget. You used $776,811 that was actually refunded back to the districts shortly thereafter year end in July of 2022 for the ag building reimbursement. And then there was also an amount that was budgeted for future programs for $300,000. So that accounts to the $1.9 million that was, assigned at June 30th, 2022. And then use the balance of the budget, used to reimburse the school district for the renovations, and then also to put money or take money aside to use for additional programs. So that leaves you with the $1.7 million that I know that Tanya has in her presentation for the budget tonight. So that kind of segues, what we're doing here tonight with the audit and what's actually in the presentation tonight, kind of go from there. So that $919,000 about the budget, we'll see how that kind of ends up in relation to how your actual numbers go over 2022, 2023. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you mention about the single audit notification we got that we filed, the documents we didn't have that federal?
Okay, so as you probably know, when at your home districts, you have a single audit related to your federal awards. And you have to do a single audit, and because of the extra money and the child nutrition programs, a lot of the vote techs are now qualifying for the single audit. The Upper Bucks had gotten a notification that they should, basically inquiring whether they had a single audit during the current year, but during the current year, your actual single or federal money was actually under the threshold of $750,000. So we put a reconciliation together of all the federal funds that were received during the year. And we mailed that to the, Pennsylvania, and to indicate that we did not have to do a single audit during the year.
Thank you.
The 21, 22 or 22, 23?
20. Yes. Remember, to the planning committee, I was going to report out tonight. We have the authority here, so why not let him do it for me?
But now 22, 23, those federal funds will probably even be lower, correct?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I don't want to actually, we've already kind of looked at it, in terms of, if you were going to have one, this would have been a year with all the SSO money for the breakfast and lunch, so.
okay. Yeah, this one less audit.
So what you're gonna see here is everything that's gonna be in the budget presentation tonight is consistent with the numbers out of, 21, 22. And second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure you get some dessert too. That's over there.
He's gonna make sure he keeps this audit on his list of places to keep auditing.
Right? You mentioned you got a pizza at the other, no, no. You get-
I don't miss the vote.
There you go. Want me to continue, or did you want to do any of your slides now? You want me to go right into my slide? Okay, so continuing on, we're gonna go down to slide 10. Talking about budget update, so we have met with the business manager twice right now, so we have an upcoming meeting with them next week that I plan to provide additional documentation that they've asked for. So that will be forthcoming. But are in good shape there. As of this budget on page 10, your expenditures are just under 12 million at 11.9. With the additional 57,000 in the homes now, we're looking at just over 1.7 million. So you have a couple options, and that's on this slide, and then you all have the presentation as well, so you can go to page 10. There are a couple options here with that fund balance. So we put them below. One, we have to consider we owe the school districts just over $1 million back from this audit that we've just reported out. You have a couple options. One, you can refund the school districts from this $1.7 million fund balance. And two, you can refund the school by reducing the annual payment, meaning what they're going to pay us each month. Or two, or there's an option that you go the reimbursement this year. So I want to make sure you know what your options are. On this page, we have done the breakout as if the fund balance was not going to be touched, that we are going to retain the maximum 8% in fund balance. That would be your 956. And then the remainder would go into your capital fund, that fund 30. So those lines above, when I say capital fund 30 as of 6/30, we will end with about 44,000 in there. That's from that switch project that hasn't been finished. We talked about that last month, and we will go back out to bid and we will finish that. So we'll use that money within the 5 years. The limitation that we have. There's 743 will be from the fund balance to look for a total of 787,000 in your fund balance. So this is one of the options that just put it out there, but then you do have to think about that, how you're going to refund the school or not in there. Going from there.
I just wanted to have David Kahn clarify within those options. He took a look at the articles of agreement. So just to clarify a little bit about what the articles of agreement requires is, you know, if you want to weigh in on that.
So the articles are written in a somewhat funny way. There's a specific section about the reserve fund, which says up to 8%, should be no more than 8%. But then if you read the reconciliation language in Article 9C, it actually uses the word must. So it feels like the intent of the articles is actually to be as close to your 8% when you do the reconciliation as you can be. So when you're thinking about what you're going to do with the remaining monies, in order to be consistent with the articles, I do think you want to be as close to that 8% as your existing funding allows.
I think that's been the practice over the years to observe the 8%, try to get close to that as possible.
Which would be that $956,000.
Yeah. So it sounds like the way that she has it, perfect.
I don't think the Assembly district should have needed because it's part of the article, so.
Yeah. So, I think they were,
This has been.
I think they were hoping we would send it back, but I think our practice has been, and the article says that we should keep it, and we really should have.
How logistics. That's not true. Talk with the individual. Business managers, how they. Because if it doesn't come back, it may get the books one way. If it does come back, you know, it should be palatable to the business managers of the district too, as long as we wind up with the 8%, which is what we agreed to keep. So
Right, and what she just shared keeps it at that 8%. and then puts the rest of it in the fund balance or in the capital, which is what we talked about last meeting about putting that money in capital and then pulling those other projects from there as far as that roof and the barn and the cafeteria renovation. So the way that she put it in there would be consistent with what we had talked about last month for that.
That's not what has been done.
Well, right, there's been a whole mosh posh of what has actually been done. So to get into that,
The JLC has suggested, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a hodgepodge.
well, if you look back at the, I don't know if you could hear it because I know you were zoomed in last month, but, you know, the kind of, we did go over the whole timeline of Peter Yarnell's presentation that showed the history. So we did at least go into kind of what we've been doing in the past over the years and how we got to where we are today. I think one thing that's really great, this is going to be the first time balanced budget, completely balanced budget. You know, this rights the ship. And to be honest, by not sending the money back, it actually puts you in a position where this is exactly what our budget's supposed to be. We've been robbing Peter to pay Paul, and this budget says the bills due, pay it, right? And so if we have this without the offset, it puts us in a position where next year, the increase from budget to budget is going to be what the actual increase is, right? Instead of this whole fund balance kind of,
Has the practice actually been to refund during reconciliation?
no, it was.
Because it's not my question, but-
The last 2 years, yeah.
Okay.
I think if
Something big.
I passed anything over the 8% there was a fund balance reserve, and then the agreement over 8% was refunded at times. I don't know the whole history of it.
Yeah.
But I do know that we had a very healthy fund balance in 17. And we apparently have been drawn on this.
So Tanya,
For a whole host of reasons.
Tanya, what then is to get us to that 956? What is that minus the 1,048,000, whatever that number was that we were supposed to refund? Yeah, 1,048,000. So, what do we already have in fund balance that we would need to add from that?
We have 44,000 at the end of June 30th left in fund balance,
Okay, so you would need 900 and,
the 956.
oh, okay,
910.
Yeah, 910. yeah.
No, I'm not capital. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm typing my capital. I'm sorry. Fund balance. Well, as we just heard, we have 3.7, but we have assigned. What's not assigned is the 1.7.
Mhm.
So 1,757,000.
So 1,751,000, and if we would return this 1,048,000.
You'd have 708,287.
So if we shorted that 1,048,000 by the 200 and whatever number that is to bring that up to 8%. And then if we look at what capital projects we would like to do in the next couple years and bolster our capital fund with that, meaning the barn,
But
the
that's what
roof, yeah.
That's what she just did. So basically what she did was she took the portion of that refund and brought the fund balance back to 8% and then put the rest of it in capital. That's what this model shows.
Yeah, so that's what I was just gonna ask is what part, what is that number then going into capital?
The 743 would go into capital.
Okay.
But that's not including the million back to the schools.
Yes, yeah, no, that's exactly the number. So then that question is that 743 enough to accomplish the roof repair, the barn repair, and the cafeteria, which we don't know the cost of yet?
It's a good start.
Yeah,
So there was energy, and I spoke in favor of it last time to have a capital reserve here. And in talking with the business manager at Quakertown, there's energy there. They have to account if they were to allow capital to stay on the tech school books, they would have to account for that in a way that it would hit their books. So
they're generally not in favor of that, and I'll let Tanya and Dawn understand exactly how the accounting works and why it's not optimal. But what can be done is to ask the finance committee to have category set aside for part of their capital reserve for long-range capital projects at the tech school. And that way the money's there. And the tech school would just make their pitch, hey, I'm gonna put this addition on and your share is this, take some out of the fund balance or whatever. But that way we're more prepared for it. To do that properly, you gotta get our long-term plan together.
So, in order for,
We need money. So we get our long-term plan together and we understand what our funding is. You know, that way we're a better neighbor financially to the sending districts. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's what we have to do.
so Sean Albert spoke to that, that point of, keeping the capital fund in the sending districts. I think the problem with that, you know, when you look at the fact that this year we do have some capital fund, you know, some projects that we need to pull from capital, having that money here to be able to pull from. And I also think this makes the model here consistent with what we do with the sending districts, where whatever is a surplus at the end of the year for us rolls right into the capital fund, and then we have that, and this will then make it consistent, you know, as far as not having those, you know, dives and jumps as far as the capital projects each year, because we've had that fund to pull from. I also think the other benefit is, you know, it incentivizes the administration here to keep going out and working hard to get all of that grant money, because the reality is, if you're going and getting all of this grant money to offset the budget, and then you're being required to send all that money back to the sending districts, and then you kind of get penalized for it. It's kind of like, why should the administration here work their tails off to try to get more grant money when they're really giving all that money back anyway? And then it kind of counts against them next year in a negative way, because they underspent their budget.
Yes. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to maintain your 8% or more, rain or shine. You know, right now, you know, we're all a little bit flush because of the ESSER funding out there. That dries up in 24 and goes away. And again, the sending districts are the ones that raise taxes. We don't. Not that rich. And
We don't.
Not very rich. And I know that this budget, I have issues with specific line items. I wouldn't interrupt. I'm going to get one with that. The capital fund retained here means more discussion and an understanding with the business manager. So, and with the individual finance committees to make sure that everybody's in agreement what we do.
So I think they also, what they're talking about is, you know, getting that money back and then that offsetting the budget and the increases that they're seeing. But the other concern with that is then you're again artificially reducing, because that's money that was budgeted for that was money that was budgeted here 2 years ago. It's money that's completely written off. Really, it's a gift to be bringing that back, because it's money that's only unspent because we had unfilled positions, right? And we had people, it's $1.4 million. $1 million of it is unfilled positions because, you know, we had trouble getting people to fill those positions. And so to now take that $1 million and send it back, again, you're going to be offsetting that budget, and then you're going to get hit with that jump again next year. So if our goal this year is to right the ship, right, then offsetting that budget by another $1 million is only going to put us in that position where now next year, again, you've got to make up that $1 million, right?
It's a which way you look at it. the sending districts gave you the money under the agreement that you were gonna fill those positions and you didn't do it. So that, for a whole host of reasons, from the sending district side. And you wound up with the extra money, so if you have your money, that's gotta go back to the sending.
Right,
And I understand what you're saying, because we'll have the same conversation 12 months from now, right? And all of that said, it's just, it's more productive. It's the way it's been. I hate to say it, that's the way that it's been for however long it's been. But we've never seen quite as large an increase as the kids. So I'm trying to help us out.
right. Well, the increase is because we're now not pulling from fund balance and we're saying pay your full bill. But if you look at budget to budget, expenditure to expenditure, we actually went down almost 1%, 0.96%. So,
On the expense side, yeah, not
but not the what?
the budget side.
Yeah, but that is the budget. The budget is your expenditures, right? And so expenditure to expenditure, we went down 1%.
Right.
But
But
the fund balance is why our increase
it's
is,
done budget to budget. Not expense to expense, revenue to revenue, not expense to expense, or two different methods of accounting, so.
So
revenue.
David Kahn, there's no stipulation in the articles requiring us to send additional funds back to the sending districts if we didn't spend them, correct?
I'm still confused by the word refund, because Article 9C actually contemplates that basically you'd be setting up you'd be adjusting your next year budget to account for any under or overpayment that any sending district made. So your projected payments over the course of the next year would reflect an overpayment. But you wouldn't literally get a check back to the sending district at reconciliation for whatever your overpayment was. You would just have your
Right,
contributions reduced over the course
I
of the
think
year.
that's been a misunderstanding on the sending district side where they were thinking that they get a check back and then they have to repay, but
But that's
that's not
how we
actually.
did it. That it has done it, but it's been reduced out of what they owe you. It's been, and then I've also seen there was the checks cut. We looked that up, but it was coming from the fund balance from the barn, the 776.
From the ag building.
The ad building,
Yeah.
which is why we,
Right, that was different. That was,
why we took the voting mode.
yeah.
Yeah, and we took that out. Typically, they'll do the reduced out.
Okay.
So you can see that, then we've got a whole nother, well, we'd have to rework that again. And so we got a whole nother issue.
Again, I don't have any energy how the business managers, but that money has to be accounted for by the sending district side somehow.
Mhm.
Because it's residual money here, it's not accounted for. So that's another point that the business managers have to understand how they want to do it. So we know that when the budget comes next year, it's going to be $1 million less, and $1 million is a lot of money, or whatever the number is. So, we understand the tax dollars that we're asking for, we understand what we've already spent. And that's where my energy, I don't have any energy on the logistics. It is what it is, as long as it's accounted for properly.
So I think another change to the articles might be something good that we say, we keep, and we put a range up, we keep this much in fund balance, 8 to 12%, something like that.
It is, it's
And then we,
actually,
but then we have another line on that articles that says we can keep a capital balance, and we should keep a capital balance that also is 8 to 12% or something like that. And that way it caps us.
You're going to push that on the county.
Yeah, but only until that fund's full. Then once it's full, then beyond that, we can have the amendment in the articles reading anything beyond that 12% in either of those categories gets refunded.
In favor of it, if the ribbon goes, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's suggested, and I did, so talking about it and talked with business managers, talked with a couple other, it's going to hit sending districts, but books. And it's as much of a political issue as an accounting issue. And once you get the political issue involved, people get emotional.
Well, the
So
political issue is a lot easier. That $700,000,
I wish you well.
but of that $700,000, Quakertown's portion of that is only 46%. So you're not looking at giant numbers that are gonna impact any of the sending districts that drastically.
Well, I think the other thing you're gonna have to worry about too is, that barn needs to be done, that roof needs to be repaired. And so we gotta have money in there to do it. The cafeteria project needs to happen. So if the money is here, we can write the check and do it. If it's not, then we would have to get money from the sending districts. And then what are we doing? Are we going to go back to, are we pulling it from fund balance and then having them refund us next year? Because that's gotta be accounted for.
Well, you have a budgetary reserve as well.
Well, right, but then again, we're getting into that, like, we should be budgeting for it. We shouldn't be getting into this whole, well, we're gonna borrow money and then next year we're gonna refund ourselves, right? As opposed to budgeting and doing it right the first time. That's kind of how we keep getting into this trajectory. But anyway, you're right, we have to have that conversation and that's the decision we need to make as a JFC about how we're gonna vote on that.
You know, my input for this whole process is we've changed everything. We've changed the business manager, we've changed the accounting method, we've changed the accounting system. And poor Tanya here, I don't know. I don't know how she does it.
Well, I think if you told
that's
Tanya
why-
to do it the
that's
old
why
way,
the
she would have.
district still has a lot of questions. And I still have a lot.
You need to ask me about the old way.
I was,
About.
No.
And structural deficit year after year.
It's over here. Everything had to come from the sending schools in whatever form.
And when the budget was done on
Schools
the
were
analysis,
analyzed fund balance.
and please understand, we also pulled up $21 million renovation without a whole lot of,
Well,
okay.
you don't want to have that conversation with me, but.
You know,
Yeah, borrowing money through a bond, which wasn't the best way to do it, and paying all that interest on it, but Palisades didn't have to because they saved and planned accordingly. And that's what I'd like to do moving forward, and that's what we're doing in Penridge now. So.
And we started. We managed to do a $21 million renovation.
That we're still paying for, yeah.
And, yes, we can argue the economics of it, but we got the logistics done. My point is that the business managers all got along and there weren't a whole lot of surprises or changes this year because of the way of the situation we're in. We've changed everything, and that you have to have a little, how do we get it here?
we got to your second point.
7 minutes to finish the budget.
Just skip to the end then. Okay. Not at all. A little light, just, going to page 11. This quick page is just telling you your adjusted revenue, which my next slide will actually tell you about. And reminding you that last month you indicated to go ahead and add those programs that are listed into this budget. So they are now in that number up there. So below is just a summary on the audit and how we derive kind of returning money. So next page is the meat. The business managers have a love-hate relationship with my accounting and my Excel spreadsheet, but we got
This slide.
especially John. We'll start with the 10.5 is where those total expenditures, that's, remember, we're basing this off from expenditures this year. We started at 11.7, we backed out the barn renovation of 776. We backed out the budget reserve 3135, etc. Coming up with that 1053. You have to then add in your other projected revenues, which is your others, and we have a whole slide on that, but 1.9. Long story short, we look at our whole total projected onto the right up there. You got about a 12.6, you're projected in revenues. I subtract out my projected expenditures. I had a difference of 740, which then I reduced from the sending district amount to be sent. So the adjusted would be the 9.7 below. Down below is the payment And the breakout, adding the debt service for the two schools. For the total over this side in the 22-23 comparison in terms of percentages. Any questions? This one's really easy. We've seen it many times. We all agree on it. Let's get the average daily memberships. This is just a quick visual of how you're closing your gap in your budget and your enrollment, how your enrollment trends are going up. We can skip on through that one. This next one kind of breaks down your.
Well, actually, can you go back to that one for a second real quick?
Absolutely.
Just taking a look at this and I don't know, was this, were these enrollment numbers the most up to date or is it even higher now as far as?
We're continually adding programs. It could go higher, and if we could get over 1,000, which is possible. That's a conservative number of 967.
So does this have the added ag section in here that we're,
Yeah.
So this,
and no computer networking and cybersecurity? So,
and law enforcement additions,
yeah.
so this is gonna be.
This number is going to,
Until we have students, and you've closed out the registration, right? For the
So I'll do the enrollment report. We set first round of enrollment that students are placed. And there's a few students, I don't have the exact number, 10 or 15 that have, for whatever reasons, we're going to go to the second phase. And then I have a slide, I think we have 167 students on waiting list. A large number of students are in 8th grade or 8th graders rising that really want to come to the tech school.
for the 9th grade.
Yes, that'll be 9th graders. So we were in a similar boat that we were last year. It worked out, and we thank the strong leadership of our JOC and board members, the 27, because they really made it a great effort to allow those students to come to the tech school.
But the
By
actual
adding those two
numbers,
extra sections, and so we will not be able to kind of finalize additional sections with our potential partners from the Associated Builders and Contractors and having some space available. We're going to be very strategic to see if there's not capital costs, what's the best program that link to the labor market, et cetera. So I think we're just broadening those options.
so
The new section right now, unfortunately, in Pennsylvania right now, high quality access into CTE programs is 6.42%. There's a lack of state funding, decentralized, and I'm sorry that this sometimes has puts in conflict with the sending school districts and the funding, because I can assure you we're maximizing opportunities. We're very, very efficient. I believe that every student should have access to a CTE program. I know from Penn Ridge, we're looking at 15%, well above that 6, because Dr. Bolton provided that average of the students that are coming to the tech school. So we want those numbers to become higher. Our partners, our business partners are saying we need so many employees. So again, we have to be strategic. If you remember a couple months ago, I asked if the enrollment process could be moved up so this could really be finalized, but we're far from that still. And when you talk about the budget, very important is how many students can we get in the building? We don't know that right now. We're going to issue the second level of acceptances and potentially third. Then we're going to evaluate what programs students' interests were, access, and then come up with that third teacher, just like we did last year. But I will say the additional section of culinary, healthcare will still pay dividends this year, because I thank you for making those just tough decisions. And we're not unique in this system. All of the CTCs are saying the same thing. Tremendous support, tremendous interest from students and parents. We need funding. I'll talk about that during the main part of the meeting with legislator day. It's coming, right? And so we just gotta, work with our representative staffs or local legislators to get resources. I just want to thank you, and that's our ultimate goal. How do we best serve students? How do we represent those business and industries, the labor market, education and economy, workforce development?
So Mike, though, or Dr. Herrera, we have these already added into this budget. So we have the computer networking salary and the ag or law, and this is what you were saying. It could be either one depending on where that demand is what you're saying. So if, let's put an if in there, since we already are budgeting for those. If those spaces are opened up, what is our final enrollment number look like then?
We were looking at 1,020.
Like 1020, something like that.
How many students do you have right now?
If all, right now,
8 something.
There's a slide in here that shows that
Yeah.
they'll get to that. I interrupted. But the reason I wanted a quick stop at that slide was just to show how our per pupil costs have drastically decreased.
How many are?
That was the only point that I wanted to make on that slide. You can keep going.
865. That's the, you're at now,
865. How many are graduating?
or I don't.
we have
Graduating 200?
302, because that's why we placed 302 students.
Okay, so if we had 300 new enrollments, new students enrolled next year, we'd have the same number of students here.
No, we will have that number of 967.
That's if you just replace the graduating ones.
That's what I
So,
asked.
yeah,
So how many students would it take to replace those graduating? 300, right?
There are some spots of kids that have left during the school year. So if we have I think there's 240 seniors that are graduating. The reason why we have 302 seats is because of kids that have left and transferred.
Okay, what is the capacity with the current staff right now?
Without any new programs, 967.
so if we add an additional section either to ag or law,
Just let me follow the numbers here.
okay,
If you have, would you say you have today 8 something,
865. 865.
and you take off the 250,
Mhm.
come up with 600, right?
I didn't follow, I'm sorry. Okay, 600.
600,
650.
the difference between the 600 and the 9, whatever the capacity.
967,
So that's
367.
360 students, new students.
Recording in progress.
How many do you have currently?
Right.
Mhm.
How many students are verified, whatever you would call it, are not on a waiting list or not, maybe haven't finished their paperwork? How many students have finished their paperwork and are ready to come in here next fall?
I think it's between 160 or 170. They're going to be coming in 23.
I'm just,
No, I appreciate that. This is great. And I was going to spend some time on this. So in enrolled track, we had the priority date application on 2/14. And even despite that, kids and students are still enrolling. Stacy, you can pull up the enrolled track. Last month, I reported 607 students that had started enrolled track. When we looked last week, it was 651. We don't stop enrollment, we don't stop applications.
But in roll track, that is new students?
Yes,
or that
it was
is
all new
already enrolled?
students, yes.
No,
How many students-
ones that haven't completed the form that may not come.
So
Yeah, I'm not asking for the ones who are committed to be here next year, when you said it was 217 or something like that.
Well, all the waitlisted kids are committed to be here too. We just don't have spots for
anyone
them.
that's on the wait list means that their applications are submitted and completed.
So that's part of that 270 or whatever number.
So basically what's happening is a record number of enrollments. We have about 240 seniors that are graduating. We have empty seats for students that have transferred out. We placed 302 students. Out of the 302 students, we do a second round. Currently, there's 189 students that are on the waiting list that have completed applications. 43 high school students and 146 current eighth graders.
How many of those 189 are in these? Or would be in the two programs where you're wanting to add sections?
So because of the timeline, I can't answer that. Because we didn't go to second round, third round, et cetera. I can answer computer networking is 13 kids currently. But that third section is we have to go through full acceptances. And that was my ask last year to push this up, so I have all these answers for you. We won't have the answers. We just met, we sent acceptances out for those 302 students. Mrs. Welding had meetings with the guidance counselors, the representatives from those school districts who are looking at that. We require the students on enroll track for the first time to accept those spots. Some of them haven't. Descending school districts are working because we don't want those students to give up those spots. So we're going to wait a few days. Then we're going to go to a second round of acceptances and then a third round of acceptances. Once that gets finalized, we will analyze the waiting lists, et cetera. No different than last year. That's my original request, was to move everything up. So I apologize, but that's, beyond my control now.
So Jim, hold on, let me interrupt for a second. Since we're going over the time, can we start the regular meeting and continue this discussion in the regular meeting then?
Yeah.
When we get to the finance
Yeah,
part, portion.
I have a point, you got to remind them about that.
I'll try and remind you, but my brain's full of questions now. So, yeah, I guess we'll take a couple minute break then. And then move on.
Yes.
I need to.
Now it's just.
I really want to
Yeah, I do have it. And it's, it's where we see it. You can always. We'll call this meeting to order. And we will start with the pledge of allegiance. Oh my God. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Ms. Brandon, we have the roll call.
Mr. Spear.
Here.
Here. Ms. Lemon. Here. Mr. Cormack.
Here.
Mr. Howell.
I am here.
Dr. Ock.
Yeah.
Mr. Gino.
Here.
Mr. Thurman.
Involved.
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Okay, we have 9. And then, can we have, or do we have any public comments on agenda items? Any in the room? I don't see any chats. Okay. So we will have an executive session tonight after our meeting to discuss,
Personnel issue and jet suite litigation.
okay, personnel and legal issues. And then could we have the director's report next?
Okay, Mr. Curley, would you do the honors, please, for student of the month?
Oh, go you go first?
Yes.
Okay. Jason Halkman is our student of the month. He is a diesel technology student at a Quakertown Community High School senior. I don't believe he's in here yet.
Here it goes, ready?
Okay, let's try to. So, Jason Haltman is a diesel technology student and a Quakertown Community High School senior. He has worked at Matt's Heavy Duty Truck Repair in Sellersville since January of 2022 and began as a co-op student with them in October of 2022. He is a general truck mechanic that diagnoses and troubleshoots mechanical problems, including swapping engines and transmissions. He is a first honors student and received the Outstanding Student Award for Level 2 and 3 in his program, and is also a National Political Honor Society member. His employer and mentor, Matt Caroluzzi, states that Jason is naturally mechanically inclined and picks up on details quickly. He has a strong work ethic and is willing to learn new techniques. He is an asset to our team. Jason has won first place 2 years in a row at the Skills USA district competition and will compete at the state competition next month for diesel technology. Jason has met all of his Eagle Scout requirements and is waiting for board review. As your final project, Jason put up a flagpole at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Cape Cod. After graduation, Jason plans to continue at Matt's Heavy Duty Truck Repair. Congratulations. And we're gonna hand it.
That's great.
You ready?
No, not really. So, Jason, did you get your?
Sure. So, Jason represents, the class, my first class. So this is my 4th year teaching. So this is the 4th year that he's been in my class with me. So it's kind of like a special class for me. And I remember hearing another teacher talk about this years ago. My son's music teacher, which was in the same boat, and I had no idea that I'd be in this position now. But at any rate, Jason's been a terrific student for all his time. Obviously, he's got the hands for it, he's got the aptitude for it. He's like a very good self-motivated self-starter. He found that job himself over the summer with Matt's, got himself ready for co-op this year. And obviously, before he even came, I think he had that auto, correct? So he's already working on trucks and working on tractors, lawnmowers, so he got started very early. But at any rate, very proud of him. Second time he's going to states for skills, doing a great job at work, doing real work, not just entry level, just getting my feet wet kind of work. And even more than meat and potatoes suspension work, he's doing engine work, engine swaps. He is doing clutch jobs, transmissions, earning his stripes in the field, which is very impressive for somebody that hasn't even graduated high school yet. So
Yeah,
very proud of Jason, and I want to give him another round.
Rock, would you like to say anything on behalf of the?
It's hard to follow, Greg. But everything that he said, as far as the co-op position is concerned, he's been nothing but on time with all of his paperwork and always respectful and easy to get a hold of if I need him. His employer, I thought, was going to try to make it, but I think Jason said that it got called out.
It's still coming, but.
Okay. Terrific things to say about him. Every time I go to visit, it's nothing but positive and professional, and he just is really happy to have Jason there.
Yeah, way to go.
Jason, did you get your Class A driver's license yet?
Not yet. I mean, I just turned 18 like a month ago, so.
Oh, okay, so you're planning to go too?
I'm planning to get it.
I think Bucks, we signed an agreement with Bucks that they're gonna be doing the training right here in the parking lot.
And then, like, you able to come outside?
Huh?
You able, like, outside people able to come in?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Go in the process.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so maybe by the time you're ready to get it, you won't have to go far.
We thank your parents for sending you here, so nothing but a pleasure. Had a nice meeting with Mr. Gunderson, from the Boy Scouts. We've done a lot of volunteer work. We're looking to enhance that partnership. We believe in service to the community. Our upcoming National Technical Honor Society, where we partnered with the Percy Rotary. We really promote that type of service. Tell us a little bit about why you chose that project at the, for your Eagle Scout.
I chose the project first off because I needed a project and I couldn't think of too much. Somebody brought up the idea of a flagpole. So then I met with the property committee leader and went over some ideas with him. And at first he wanted to put it in a rock, like behind the church where you would never see it. And this guy is like a retired electrical contractor, so he used to put light poles up, so he's got all the like equipment to drill through rocks and concrete. So he wanted to put it there, but they had this big stump up right in front of the parking lot where it looked nice, kind of overset in the church. And you could see it just barely from the road if you want to look for it. So we decided that we were going to put it there after like the project paperwork and everything got approved. So my scoutmaster, he had a backhoe, so he used his backhoe, dug the stump out, which was a tree like probably 5 times the size of that podium.
Oh, wow.
Pretty big tree. So we dug that all out, and then this big rock that sits right next to it. So we backfilled it all in, and then when I finally had the excavation all done and backfilled all level, he used his coring rig and drilled a hole in the rock, and then
In the boulder, they drilled 4 in a boulder.
4 inch, 2 foot deep. But then we built the retaining wall. And then out of rock.
There it is.
Too late. Now. We built it out of natural rock and it was all dry laid and everything, which the property guy, he's got a lot of connections in the industry. So we built that all out of dry laid rock, and he had a lady come down that's been doing it for like 40 years. And she kind of walked us through it and touched up our work a little. And, you know, we put the flagpole in with sand and then silicone over top, which makes it so you can take the pole out of the ground. It's not stuck there if they ever had to remove it or become bent. And then we put decorative rock over the top, and that's pretty much the project.
Yeah, very nice.
I think total we have like 1,500 hours into it.
Wow, holy man.
So we're very proud of you and we thank you for.
Hey, checking all the boxes. Keep it up.
Congratulations, great job. And Mrs. Free and Mrs. Penn and Mr. Parpiglia and Mr. Dietrich all said congratulations and an awesome job.
Thank you.
So this is his employer?
Yeah, I'm Matt. How are you guys?
Is he taking care of you? Both ways. Is he doing a good job for you?
Awesome. He's better than some of the guys that I have that were basically in their 50s. They've been doing this for 20-25 years. Amazing. Just awesome. Catches on. It's awesome. If I could find 10 more of him, I would be happy.
But you can ask his teacher, he might have.
He's amazing. I mean, like, comes into work on time, does what you say. No arguments. Like, I have a couple guys that, want to argue about everything. They think they know everything. Just does what he's supposed to, comes in on time. It's amazing. It really is. He's really good. So, and he'll learn like what he knows now. I mean, I can imagine him in 10 years from now. So he's really good. And there's not a lot of guys that want to do this anymore. It's very far and few between that you find someone that's, I mean, I think I hired him like, what was it, like a year and a half ago or a year ago? Yeah, 16. Yeah, and he was amazing when he started. Like, I was like, you want to clean the shop? He was like, no, not really. He would clean the shop, but then I was like, you're better than that. You need to, do more stuff. He can do like a transmission and a clutch and like, depending on what it is in like 7 or 8 hours. And it's amazing. Like I have guys that have been doing this for like, 10, 12 years and it takes them 2 days to do a clutch. Jason does it in a day. You know what I mean? I had the guy pull it out that
is more experienced. He pulls it out. It takes him until, 1 o'clock, and Jason gets it put back in 4 hours. And it's all done and it's right. So it's amazing. We appreciate the employer, the mentor, the close relationship that you have. Yeah. We do have, we're gonna go program the month, but we had a lot of students interested in diesel. There's students on the waiting list. There must be something in Palisades, because we had 8 students that were really interested, great aptitude, and the way we used to do placements, it would be according to the ADM, this is for my board, and it would be if there's 10 spots for Quakertown, for Penridge, to Palisade, but when we started looking at that, I don't know what, but there was 8 kids that just really loved the interest, the aptitude, working with their parents, and so that's how we revised the enrollment system too. And so as we're beginning to talk about budgets and the impact on the economy and the workforce development, where you're saying we need a lot more students, we have a very supportive grade 4 that is trying everything they could do to try to give these students the opportunities, et cetera. So we thank you for taking the time to mentor and what you're doing, because that's very, very important too.
Yeah, he basically, I was totally against like tech school kids, like I wanted a guy that was basically, up and running, like, fully ready to go. But I have 2 more tech school kids now, and it's amazing. So, I mean, they'll learn, and you gotta get the person that's, wanting to do it. It's not like the person that, doesn't want to do something. It's gotta be the person that actually, wants to do it. And if they're not really wanting to do it, then they're not worth the time. So, and Jason really wants to do it. So that's what's really good. So,
Thank you, Jason. I don't know if, well, we're gonna go, program of the month is Mr. Masters, diesel technology. Don't have that far. Received tenure last year, and he's a well-respected diesel technology teacher. Before teaching, he worked as a diesel mechanic for over 20 years, including 10 years as a shop foreman at Del Valle International Trucks. He was a product of CTE, Independent Middlebucks Institute of Technology in high school. He has earned an associate's degree from Bucks County Community College. His program is fully enrolled next year with a waiting list. He receives numerous donations. We received donations from Burton's to celebrate Bill Latowski's contribution, long-term member and supporter of UBCTS. Other examples include Coopersburg, Kenworth, and Cummings donating a Ascar engine. They recently rewired, cleaned up, and reinstalled injectors, changed oil, and got a historical Detroit diesel 671 engine up and running. Numerous co-op, Bergey's, L&L Bus, Levy, Matt's Heavy Duty Truck Repair, Miller Tire and Auto, United Drilling, Lek Waste Services, Miller Tire, etc. So our students work, they stay here, they really contribute to the economy. We're very proud of them. Mr. Masters, when during legislator day, we really focused on his plight. It's very difficult to get someone that is like Mr. Masters, a dedicated technician who wants to come back and teach up to 40+ students at a time. Mr. Masters came, and I don't know if you want to say your story, but we talked with Representative Stats, a lot of the legislators. It's a very compelling story where maybe Mr. Masters, if you don't mind kind of sharing, how many credits did you come into before you started at the tech school?
I came in and I came to the tech school with more than 90, it was either 93 or 98.
And Temple accepted how many credits?
3.
3 credits. You've been a master teacher for 3 years on the fly. In December, 2 EL students start in the program. CAST, Universal Design for Learning, Special Ed. We're providing all that in service. Mr. Masters is facing the prospect of having to take 2 college classes for the next 8 years. As to process that, someone coming from industry teaching, he has that 10,000 hours, which we promote to become a master teacher, mastery. And so we really appreciate, and again, from Upper Bucks County Tech School, we're saying that's not right. like we can and should do better. We work very closely with our representatives and we need to change that.
Yes, we do.
But with that said, Mr. Masters, we thank you very much for your dedication and all that you do. You don't got anything else or?
All right, I'll say something brief, not that I like to talk. Say, I'll take the podium here, that Jason is a great example of why tech schools are so great, because obviously it's been the platform for him to be able to show his talents, whether it's in skills or just being a great student working in the shop, or now working at Max, as a mechanic and being really successful. So he's a great example, but also, there's been a lot of successes just this year. Corbin, another student, got silver, right? A friend of Jason's also in Scouts, in skills. We've got a lot of neat stuff done. Most importantly, this year for me is getting Cummins involved with the program so students can get Cummins certifications, which is really important. I know when I was a young technician, I couldn't beg my way into having that opportunity. So it's terrific to be able to create that opportunity for the students, again, at the high school level. I feel like high school tech schools are competing now with post-secondary schools because we're offering all the same things, so, which is great for industry. I'm sure you'd agree. You'd rather have the guys now and train them your way.
Yeah,
With a good foundation, right?
exactly, yep.
Yep, so we can maybe circumvent the process, save the students some money, so I'm proud, happy to be a part of that, and I appreciate the opportunity from everybody. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you for recognizing the program. But it's not that really, it's the students that are involved in the program that make it. And I've had ups and downs, but a lot of fun with the students, enjoying when the engine starts for the first time and moments like that. So thanks.
Thanks for all you do.
I'd like to thank Pat and Sharon Fitzpatrick, who donated to guinea pigs and storage supplies, approximately $500 to Ag Tech. Linda Martin, who donated $100 cash in memory of Marion Robbins. Quakertown Business and Professional Woman, who gave $100 towards the Skills USA competition. My next thing is going to be law Enforcement Day. Recently, we are big supporters of law enforcement. Craig Penglis has came out. He's a prosecutor, defense attorney, always providing more opportunities for our students looking to do mock trial. He wants to come in, give back. We thank him for it. And that was very productive. Thank you, Mr. Ritter, for helping set that up. The students really liked that. In the middle of Stella, our service dog. I'd like to turn it over to Chief Matt Phelan, who's going to talk a little bit about Law Enforcement Day.
Thank everybody for having me here. I came before you before the school year started with an idea to put an office space in the tech school here. And I just wanted to report on that, the project that we have up and running, and then report on a project that we're working on now, and then finally report on a project that we're about to implement. So I have a couple slides here. That's just the law enforcement space. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but you can the rear entrance there. It's really just a nice place for us to interact with the students. Just today, I had one of my patrolmen who's here pretty frequently tell me that one of the kids came up to him and asked him about how they can go about getting an internship in law enforcement. So just that informal conversation, building relationships, like right there, that's the whole point of this project. We opened it in fall of 23. It's like the daily patrols of the school. and interactions. I pulled up the numbers today and it's over 200 school patrols that we've done since the beginning of the school year. Having access for the officers to come in and use this room has been great.
Chief Dillon, you've been amazing. One of the things, especially being a rural school, the decision when we talk budget, the ability, do we hire a SRO, et cetera, but you've made yourself home. The kids have welcomed you. We are so appreciative of that presence that you have.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think it's a great team. Mr. Ritter and the officers and Mr. Gale, they work hand in hand. And when there's an issue, they quickly resolve it. Another thing that we're using this for now as well is the county. You could go back to that first one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The county just put some mental health co-responders. There's one working out of Percy and one working out of Quakertown. So this gentleman out of Percy has been a really good resource, and we've already utilized him to help provide services to a student who was here and needed crisis services. So we use that office then as a private space to Mr. Gale was able to help us coordinate that. We brought the mental health person in. They took it from there, coordinated with the parents, got the services in place. So that, again, that's just another really nice use of this office. And then finally, what you're going to hear about in our project to come is the victim advocate. And we're going to get that in a little bit.
Okay, sorry, go back.
One right here. Yeah, one more. Okay, so the project that's currently underway. So we started an initiative in the fall with the Bucks County District Attorney's Office in order to create what we call as the high school safety network. And if you look at the slide, you can kind of tell it's basically connecting the dots, right? So unfortunately, when we hear about school violence, and they do the after action reports on these cases, they're like, well, this person had this red flag and this person had this red flag, but they didn't connect the dots. One of the opportunities for improvement that we thought we could do was connect all those dots. And if you go to the next slide, Mike, what we did was we brought all these agencies together. We came up with a protocol. So if you look at this slide, I think it's telling. The mission is what it is, to bring us all together to help the safety of the students. But for me, the patches on there are really what say the story, right? So in this very room 2 weeks ago tomorrow, we had high school principals, administrators, chiefs of police from all these agencies. So you have the four schools, 3 sending schools and the tech school, and you have law enforcement from 6 different agencies, including the district attorney, who's the chief deputy for juvenile prosecution. DA Weintraub is supporting of this program, and he assigned her, Christine Hoover, as our liaison to get this program off the ground. And essentially what it does is first, it creates, I think you go to the next slide. It creates a communication option. So we all have emergency contacts now. There's 25 of us. We have emergency contacts who we can reach, who will answer the phone 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning when this information comes in from each one of those patches that we just saw on the board. That's critical, important when you have an incident that needs to be addressed. So that went out yesterday, the updated list. And what I did was we met with all the principals of the high schools in December and January. And if they want to add more people to that list, great, that's up to them. But as long as I have somebody who, when we get a call, hey, there's a tech school student from Quakertown or Penridge or Palisades who, we need to talk about, who do we call as a decision maker? So that's in place, which is huge. The next thing that we are looking to do, what came out of that meeting was, hey, we want a little more information about the Share 911. So the other districts, the other police departments that were all here, we got a great little presentation from the Share 911 CEO for that app that you all purchased. And he's going to come back on May 5th and do a full demo for everybody. So now we can get everybody on this app, get it up and running not just for Upper Bucks folks here, but for the sending school, who's ever interested, all the officers in the area can have access to that and know, like, instead of waiting for somebody to call, if there's an emergency, call 911 and then get dispatched and all those things. If they get that alert on the app, they could just start heading this way right away. So that's huge. The second thing we did was we worked with a company that contracts for the state. So the state pays for it through the Department of Health and Human Services to come to the location here and provide free training for mandatory reporters. So everybody's on the same page across the board, what needs to be reported, who needs to report it, what do you do? So we spent like 2 hours on these topics, two weeks ago, Friday, covering all these items. The words, we're not where we need to be as far as all the other folks knowing about it yet, but the principals know, the chiefs of police know. Now we need to get everybody else on the same page. And we're getting there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And then that's it for that. Oh, well, I'm sorry. The last bullet point on that last one. Nice thing that since we had this meeting, I've heard from some of the schools and they're like, hey, chief, this is great. Let's do it again. Let's do it like twice a year at a minimum, because people change every year. We want to make sure that all the information is updated. And we have issues we need to talk about, operational logistic issues. And something comes in and it involves a Penridge and a Palisades or a Quakertown and a tech school student. What do we do? Just I'm using an example. Yesterday, Mike called me at like 6:45. We had a student who we were concerned about, came in through Safe to Say. We got Dave, where all three of us were on the phone. We had the Springfield police involved. And within an hour, we had Principal Heffernan from Palisades involved, and this student was taken care of. So all that came about by having that network in place. And then the next one. Okay, and then this is the last thing. I know you guys have a full agenda, so we'll do this one last part and then I'll hang out and get any questions, but I'm going to introduce Mrs. Laurie Hepler to come up.
Yeah.
So I'm proud to report that the township applied for and got a PCCD grant for a significant amount of money to implement a 2-year community relations specialist position. And basically what that's going to be is as far as the school, it looks like a school, 2 components, victim advocacy and crime prevention. But I'll let you, Laurie's going to be the, it's going to fill that role.
Yep, so my name is Laurie Hepler, and I'm going to take the role of the Civilian Community Relations Specialist. We're going to call it CCRS, to make it easy. And I look forward to serving in that capacity, and I want to thank the board and Dr. Herrera for all of your support over the years with the community, and especially with this program. We developed this program with the idea that the CCRS model would place our department at the center of a hub that would connect elements of government services with the community to improve the quality of life of not only our citizens, but the broader reach of people who come into our community, like your students and like your staff. That program has 4 components to it: victim advocacy, crime prevention, strategic communication, and policy development. We see the impact here as being the victim services and crime prevention. So when we wrote the program, we thought we would come into the school and give crime prevention sessions. And then when we were awarded the program, we needed to develop what those sessions would look like. And through our research, we kind of found that we don't know. We found that sadly, approximately 40%, our teens are 40% more likely to fall victim to property crimes than adults. And when they were polled, the Department of Justice put out a huge survey. And when they were polled, it found that 54% of those crimes happened on school grounds, and only 11% were reported to the police. And that's a crazy number. So we're missing 89% of what happens. So we have to come up with some innovative ways to find out what our teams really need. And we came up with a couple ideas. We know there's lots of different rules and procedures we need to follow here. So we're thinking maybe some assessments, ways to find out a safe way for the teams to anonymously tell us. We also thought that holding some office space in the office that Chief Wheeler talked about and having a little bit of an open door policy, maybe having it be me and not a uniformed officer, so the teams feel a little more comfortable to discuss their issues, and then we can then get them the resources they need and assign them to the right law enforcement agency. It's really important to sort of break the cycle of victimization. We know there's long-term consequences, and we want to make sure we take care of everything early on, hopefully through crime prevention and the seminars that we develop, but then if not, that first line of victimization. So we're hoping to work together and make this all happen.
So Chief Phelan, I did have one question. When you were showing which police departments you're working with, I noticed Richland Township wasn't on there.
You know what, when I made the slides, I missed their batch. Brian, sorry.
Yeah.
There's no more room on the board. for the-
Who would representatives from Cambridge for that?
Tara Gurish and Joe Gallo. We had a very productive legislator day. We want to thank Representative Stats, Representative Labs, Anthony Luker from the Office of Governor Shapiro, who gave us a very nice proclamation. We had Laura Restrepo, the Office of U.S. Senator Fetterman, who gave us some information about appropriations, knowing that we can't generate necessarily revenue. But I can assure you, we'll go after every grant, we'll go after every piece of legislation, working closely with Representative Labs, making sure that all kids that want and deserve a CT education will have that. Danielle Bonner is a big supporter of that, and Ryan Oyster from the office of Congressman Fitzpatrick's office. With legislator day, because of Representative Stott's schedule, and appreciate you coming out. We're really going to go to the Associated Builders and Contractors presentation. On the Zoom today is Joe Perpiglia, the president and CEO, Mike Perpiglia, who's a chief training officer, Rick Repper from RL Repper, who hires 2 of our co-op students, and he's a chairman of the board for ABC, is on. In person is Jerry Kilhafner with Clover, CEO. Mark Calley, VP of Micromechanical, and I'm not sure if Stephen Worth and Ann Worth are on the phone. We have a long history with ABC where it became a best practice. Representative Stats legislation helped create apprenticeship grant programs to enhance workforce development partnerships between schools, employers, organizations, and associations. He will chair the education subcommittee on CTE. His experience on that education committee and CTE has helped improve students' educational opportunities, whether traditional and CTE. We're preparing our students for the jobs of today and the future. I won't show the video of that pre-apprenticeship, but it's we can tell you that our students are working, they're staying there, they're going from apprenticeship to journey to foreman to even business owners. We are fortunate to have vital education, government, labor, business, and industry support in Bucks County. ABC was established in 1962. They represent 600 member companies and industry partners. I recently went to their office, and they were talking about building a training center for $6 to $7 million. I said, we have very, very similar interests. We have a beautiful building. Tammy Talese, Joe Perpiglia came out the next morning. They toured our programs. They saw the magic of our facilities. Mr. Kilhafner said, what a beautiful facility. That's a few minutes ago. It looks like the kids really take care of it. And they saw our amazing teachers. They saw our construction programs. They saw Mr. Kozak with the welding. They saw Mr. Miller, his great use of technology. And I'll let them talk, but they said, we really want to be able to partner with you. So there's a couple different programs. What I'd like to do is maybe hear from ABC, and I'd like to go to the JOC to see if they would be willing to create a task force to potentially move ABC's operations from Harleysville to UBCTS for those pre-apprenticeship programs. When I interviewed for this job, we talked about expanding opportunities for students that weren't in the tech school, those students that are sitting in those programs that want to potentially have immediate job opportunities through one of their programs, that senior only option, and also opening that up for adults. So it just seems like the stars lined up. And it's a wonderful opportunity. Maybe we could hear from them, and I'd like maybe Representative Stack, if you'd be willing to help with that task force, again, helping us bring us together along with the board to move forward with that.
Whatever you need.
Representative Stack, do you want to say anything?
Well, first of all, thanks again for having me here tonight. It's important that I learned more about what you do here, and the nuts and bolts that we're talking about tonight, and it's going to help me be more aggressive and accurate when I try and represent you in Harrisburg. So I appreciate that. But regarding this relationship with ABC, I think it's phenomenal. And whatever you need from me, you let me know, and I'll be there. You know that. We are just kind of getting some traction out in Harrisburg. We just got committee assignments last week. So not a lot to report on as far as Harrisburg right now. We did get the governor's proposed budget. As we know, that's a starting point. That will not be the final product. But there is a nice CPE line in there that we're going to try and keep there. I will be advocating to keep that number where it is as we trim other areas.
Mr. Kilhester?
I'm glad to be here. We have taken many of your students into our programs over the years. When we were applauding the gentleman who's going into diesel mechanics, I couldn't help but thinking of how fragile the ecosystem is. I know that people look at business and you guys have it made and all the rhetoric, but it's extremely difficult and fragile, our infrastructure. Like, we don't do anything with diesel engines, but my operation runs on diesel engines, right? Even though it's not what we do. If I can't get a truck repaired, I'm out of business. So it severely affects us. And so it's not just us and the welders and the carpenters, it's the HVAC guys, it's everybody in your programs that have the economic engine of our community work. And any one sector of that falls behind, and I have a 5-day waiting list to get an engine repaired, that really hurts. It hurts everybody, right? So, and there's such a tremendous need. We've done a real in service, I think, to our kids over the years, the last 30 years anyway, since I've been in high school until now, steering kids away from dirty hands jobs. And I think we're finally realizing that some of those dirty hand jobs are paying much more than the non-dirty hand jobs. And it's also a skill set in most cases that can't be outsourced. Once they have their apprenticeship card, it's theirs for their life. They can go anywhere in the country or the world and still have that skill set. And the need is so great that any one of these partnership agreements is a good thing, because it's going to take more than anyone to solve the problem that we have. And if we don't solve it, it's going to be a national crisis. We're not going to be able to build the things that we need to build. So we're very interested and invested in your success, because we don't run without it.
Your sweet spot is from 11 to 20 stories.
So we have about 100 commercial carpenters out in the field that build buildings like this. We do a lot of public schools, a lot of higher education, a lot of nursing home and hospital work. And then we also have a factory that builds the structure for right now, mostly multi-family livings from 5 to 20 stories is our sweet spot. So you have graduates from this school right now that are working in the largest project of that kind in the country that's going to Philadelphia, that's coming out of Quakertown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those panels honestly will go from, we send them from upstate New York to down to below Washington, DC. So we're pirating that work and we're bringing it to Upper Bucks County.
Nice. And we're glad that you've always been your home and bringing that back. And that includes training members from Philadelphia, where the companies will probably bus them to potentially the Upper Bucks site. And then if we could find ways to partner to get that vision of expanding, using the companies that would be building it anyway, reinvesting that smart growth in the tech school, really win-win situation. Michael Mechanical, representing another major employer in the area.
Yeah, I think it's great. When I go back to the slide where you see that upward trend of your participants here at Upper Bucks, and it's a great thing to see, because we need skilled tradespeople, I should say. I apologize. And we have a few that came through Upper Bucks and worked for us and went through the apprenticeship program with ABC. One of them is just about to become a foreman. There's the others are journeymen out there. So I think this meshes really, really well. And I'm excited to see what the synergies can be and how we can really expand the group of our tradesmen out there.
The rest of the ABC, Joe Perpiglia should be online. Joe, would you like to comment, or anyone that's in Florida at the competition?
Well, I was going to say stars align, right? So we are actually at our national craft competitions for ABC. There's 68 chapters that have sent competitors down to Florida this year. And it's, I guess it's very fitting that we're having this conversation at this particular moment, especially in the ABC world. So well, first off, Dr. Herrera, I want to thank you for kind of spearheading this. Stars do align. I think the timing in which we announced some of our new initiatives, you being in the room at the exact time when we did that, the members that are there in person, the members that are on the phone, you know, things happen when they're supposed to happen and how they're supposed to happen. And I think we're witnessing that right now. So obviously we are, you know, we want to put the pedal down to make this work. We see all the synergies that are in place. On top of that, you know, we see the amazing work that you do at that school and that facility. And it is not only attractive, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I think it puts it not only ABC, but, you know, getting craft professionals trained, getting them in our industry, showing them the lucrative positions that they can attain with no debt, and really, really enhance the American dream. I don't mean that to be cliche, but what you do, what we do at ABC, it changes lives. And now we can do that with much more capacity. So I know that we have a task force to assemble. We have initiatives to work on. That said, I know that it's going to be successful because the intention of starting it has such an air of success already. So again, I thank you very much for having us participate tonight. Thank you for giving me some time, and I'll turn it back to you.
Some of the things we need to think about is insurance. There's a lot of details in that, putting that if the board decides to move forward with that task force, working with representative staffs and other members of the UBCTS JOC.
Our legal
But Joe, you have a lot of even stuff from Harleysville that you're looking to potentially donate. You're looking to reinvest in the tech school. Is that all correct, Joe?
That's correct. So, you know, when we look at our Harleysville location and, you know, what it has done for us has been amazing. But as all things progress, you know, things change. And there's a stock of material there. There is equipment that we can certainly bring up to Upper Bucks. Obviously, I need board approval to do all of this, but I know I have some folks on the board right now that are with you. Some folks that are past board chairs that are also with you. And I think that, again, this really comes back to it's the synergy. It's a no-brainer. And it allows us to really put our best foot forward and help the school, help us. So it really is a win-win all the way around.
Yeah.
I think this is an amazing opportunity. I think this is really reflective of really the partnerships that have been formed between the school and industry. And I mean, that's certainly something that Dr. Herrera has a talent for. And, you know, I think we sit here all the time thinking about, you know, you've got this facility with all of this equipment just sitting here at night, not getting utilized. And that's expensive equipment that could really be benefiting our community and benefiting our workforce. And to have this kind of creative solution to really help each other is just really an amazing opportunity. And I think it's awesome that you guys are going to work together and do this. I think it's a no-brainer.
We have Jiffy Lube, we have the cabinet making, it's an open spot. If we have similar interests with the builders that build these buildings and we could get that up and running and it shares a joint use. Mr. Howell, we were talking about taking kids off waiting lists, welding. They were very impressed with Mr. Kozak, as we all are. It's the talent that he brings. We could do a memorandum of understanding. He could start training on Monday. We have 40 kids on the waiting list. Who knows? Maybe that we could get another lab built by our partners if they reinvest in the school. And that's where we're looking to move forward with vision and intention in that.
And you talk about not acquiring all of this debt too. We had a parent here who was talking about two of his graduates from here who were, in the welding program. And because they were able to go through and get that hands-on skill set from the welding program and take the high-end math and science courses that they needed, they were able to get not only a job right out of graduating here from high school, but also get their college degree paid for, to get an engineering degree, while working. I mean, that's such an amazing opportunity. You think about the amount of money they're saving. They're making money while going to college for free. And really, it's those pathways and making sure we have the flexibility for kids to be able to take those courses that they need in combination with coming here that open those doors. So
And these
really
members represent Dave Yates, a former student of Mr. Gass, Yates Electric. They do a lot of work. They're part of the ABC. So think about the magnitude of those potential 600 companies and the best of the best. We look forward to it. Is everyone okay with the task force?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I just have one point. This is for the representative. I've been on a soapbox for over 10 years with the Pennsylvania Economic Development Association, looking at the tech schools and how the tech schools are funded. And we had an extraordinary conversation tonight, and we'll go through it again. It'll be my 4th presentation I've heard about funding the school coming from the sending school district. I'm a firm believer that this is nothing more than a workforce development center. Point in case, that's all we do. We have so much money going into the workforce development centers throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's a plethora of dollars. There's got to be a way in which we can break that loose and put the funds dedicated to the tech schools so we can get the tech schools off the backs of the ascending school district. Until that's got to happen to make this a real smooth transition of getting people back to work.
Yeah.
But until we get the funding process finalized and improved, we're still going to be bouncing off that every year. And Mr. Schumer and I and this little farmer over here are going to bang it out because we have a difference of opinion. You've got to leave the tech schools and get the ascending school districts away from the funding process.
Pennsylvania is of 6.42% of the state's high school students in career-related learning, ranks 36 out of 50 states.
So I would say on your committee, get a funding component of people together to look at that funding area.
And I would say Mr. Cormack is volunteering to testify in that hearing that you're.
But you know what, that's to Megan's point. That's exactly the stuff we need to get out during these hearings. These challenges that we can then go back and introduce legislation to fix some of these things. But I agree, there's got to be a better way. And I can hear it in your conversations tonight, and you're talking about the budget.
And I can foresee partnerships with industry like this, where these industries can actually help build an addition onto this student, onto this facility as a learning tool. That,
the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
But you've got to get the funding sources together.
Yeah.
And without that, we'll have a great conversation.
Yeah. Like you said, there's got to be a better way.
Just one quick comment to the funding source in the ABC program. Apprenticeship is what we have in the trades, right? That's just what the model is. But the problem is a company like mine, I got a 4-to-1 ratio. I can only enter 7 or 8 apprentices in a formal apprenticeship program a year. Because I need 4 journeyman carpentry for every 1 apprentice.
4-to-1.
So we have this enormous need. It should be 1-to-1 at minimum, right? So that aside, what I understand this program to do, and maybe some night classes, will be a secondary way outside of the apprenticeship model, which it's what we have right now. I think that there could be great sides in fixing. It doesn't really meet our needs, but it's what we have. But outside of the apprenticeship model, we still can take people who can take some night courses and get to a place where they can get a higher paying job in an industry, maybe without the full-fledged apprenticeship program up front, and then maybe continue that later. But my point to that is contractors and the industry, I'm paying the kids that are taking those programs now to sit in school. They make whatever they make on the job to sit in a classroom. And I'm paying their apprenticeship fees right? So there are real dollars coming from outside the industry that are outside of public funding that are being spent on this currently. And to be able to merge those in some way, I don't profess to have the answer, but there are real dollars as well as changing the funding model that are already getting dumped to this, that could be taken advantage of with this energy.
Thank you.
So can we get a one pager of what the partnership looks like and in principle on an absolute agreement?
Well, I think we're just starting at the task force now to build that information.
To understand how, what it looks like. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I think it's a great deal. We really appreciate the opportunity. And, yeah, you're right. We'll continue to duke it out. But
So, it sounds like everyone is for that, and thank you, Representative Scott, so Mr. All those companies, we will report back next month. They would like to be on our site in September.
If not
Can we
sooner.
invest that? Yes, thank you. And so it's going to happen very, very quickly when we say the stars lined up. And so there's a lot of details that needs to be worked out. And as long as we have the support of the board, I'll do my best to make sure it happens.
Sounds good. Awesome.
I think right now it is a concept, right? And then we need to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now can we clap?
Okay, I want to say that.
Before you move on, I do need to leave.
Sure.
I do want to thank you guys for inviting me. What goes on here is important to me, not just me, but our entire community. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Snap.
I just want to say, thank you so much. You're so committed to helping here. You're always here. You represent such a large area, but you're really dedicated to our students and our building and our districts. And we really appreciate it. And you putting this hearing together is going to be groundbreaking, really, because of all the different things that need to be fixed, and having them hear from these people who can tell you, directly what's going on and what needs to be solved is going to be great. So really, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. What we're doing is important and I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Mrs. Walk, if you don't mind.
I'm Lisa Walk, I'm the co-op coordinator. I do the work-based thing for the students, and kind of just to piggyback off of what the whole conversation is. So business is really good. So I have so many employers looking for skilled people. So the whole concept is really to be able to grab the students at a young age with a little bit of background and partner them up with a good company that understands that they need to also be mentored. So just a couple things that the students benefit from. They can explore different types of career pathways. They can obviously network with a whole bunch of other different types of industry within those pathways. The employers benefit by being able to train the students on the job their way, just like you've heard Matt from Matt's Heavy Duty explain, like he can get them in early before they start to have bad habits. And then the community benefits as well. So it's just a whole big network of beneficial outcomes. So the students stay in the area, helps the employers within the area, and the students aren't looking for jobs elsewhere. So it keeps everything local. But more importantly, is keep going, Peter. So that's just a chart on what is how each of my co-op students are represented here. So that's just telling you how many students from which trade areas are out. So construction is the highest, but this is the most important, I think. So from September 1st until technically tomorrow, the end of the week, the students that we have placed will have worked over 33,000 co-op hours. Just this year, we have 83 employer partnerships, 96 kids that are in the program, and their average salary is $14.89.
When I went to the ABC meeting, Crivelli Electric was there. They're hiring 2 students on co-op. So many of them, to your point, and the amount of ABC companies, Clover, Word, Myco, RL Leppert, I think, et cetera, and we could go through that list.
Definitely. So by, technically tomorrow, the students will have earned just under $500,000. So, when you look at those statistics, I mean, it's part-time work, it's, you know, sometimes 3 hours a day, some students are working 6 hours a day, kind of really depends on the employer, but they're making a real difference and they're learning invaluable on-the-job training. So I just wanted to, you know, let you know that.
Because it's budget, and one of the things were, when we talked a couple months ago, when there was 40 or 50, and some schools are saying we need 2 co-op employers. We went back and we said, both from a financial and programmatic, being able to get our staff members to go out and see the kids on the job force. Our senior staff members stepped up. Mrs. Diaz, who's in the room, Mr. Guest. We had put some facilitators in there to make sure that we're doing things the right way. Mrs. Diaz is going out doing field visitations for the students. Mr. Gast, we have facilitators working, building community. So Mrs. Diaz, you want to say anything about what your visits or?
Yeah, I've gone out on quite a few, and we'll add Mr. Young into.
Can't forget Mr. Young, because he's out there in the pavement.
Yeah, we, the 3 of us have our co-op certification, so we are legally able to go out there. It'd be great if the rest of the teachers could do it, however.
Some are working on it.
They're not allowed to at this point.
And that's funny because in other states, if you're able to go visit, because the whole purpose of what Mrs. Walk does is make sure that labor laws are followed and it's safe. So again, in other legislation, it makes sense when you go out, if you have your co-op, would you know what's safe in the dental office?
I would, yes.
And et cetera. So those are different things that we could look into, again, leading the way here at Upper Bucks.
Absolutely, and I really, 96 students out, that means there's 96 visits that have to be, every month, have to go to the employers every month. That is a logistical nightmare. So we have students in Center Valley. I have a student that works construction in Milford, New Jersey. I have students in Warrington. I have students in Pittsburgh. I mean, they're not just in a small area. So to be able to travel and be able to make those visits and talk with the employers at length to make sure that they're happy, to make sure the students are happy, to make sure that everybody's following those safety calls and doing everything. So I really needed Marianne and Bill and Craig to be able to step up and help me, because there's no way we'd be able to have all of those students out. So I appreciate it.
We're going to our auto technology companies are trying to get a car donated for Mrs. Walk. I'm not kidding when I say that. And can they just put their sign up?
Can the graphics department put a wrap on it then too?
Yeah, so everyone's looking for that great promotion, all the top businesses in the country. Like we are so blessed for these companies that we have here in the room. We're second to none. And we have a great co-op person that cares equally about the kids.
And they are all really doing well. So the employers evaluate the students just like a regular employee would get an evaluation, and really positive things and a breath of fresh air, because as you know, young people a lot of time get a bad rap. They don't want to work, nobody wants to work, all of that kind of thing. But our students really do like to work and want to be successful. So it's been really good.
If I could jump in one more time, I had a visit yesterday to the orthodontics of Indian Valley, Dr. Silvestri, and one of my students, he's a junior, he's out this year. They absolutely love him, and they have said that they've had really bad luck with getting employees since COVID, because people don't want to work. They want to stay at home and work from home. They want to, and they've had really bad luck. But this is my 4th student that I have 3 former students that are working there, and Mitchell, who's there. And they said, we're going to call you guys from now on because you're giving us people that are, they're awesome. So
we really took off. We're essential workers during COVID, while a lot of other schools We created it where the mentors, the parents go out, and not all schools do that. So when you see our social media and those tweets, that mentor and those parents going out to that site, and they're just like, in maybe it's ninth grade, when can we get our students out on co-op? It's sort of an expectation, and we're going to do our best to make sure that that continues. So thank you for all you do, Mrs. Walker.
And that's really a testament to all of our staff and how prepared our students are going out and how much they really care and invest in our kids. And Mrs. Walk, I see you working your tail off everywhere. So, I mean, you've got so much energy and you work so hard for these kids, and we're lucky to have you. And thanks for
We had 20 of my colleagues, director from central western part of the state, that said they want to come to the tech school. They heard a lot of great things, right? They were so impressed about the cleanliness. They went to Mr. Moyer, and it was really great. Mr. Moyer, what are you doing? Like, how do you get the building looking so great? We love the way you've designed certain things, and efficiency. Mr. Young, they're talking, oh, you could fit a small engines program in that small space, and he could do planes, engines, he could do boats, he could do small engines. Wow, we're going to take that back. So very, very impressive with everything. And it's really nice to hear that from your peers. And so we created great relationships with them. And I think you just need to realize that this is a gem, this is a best practice, and we'll continue. I will not go on anymore. As you know, I'm a big cheerleader proponent. My s'more, Mrs. Cran is starting to get angry at me, maybe half that. Legislative day, you know, this is best practice. We appreciate all the sending school districts for the promotion. This Saturday, a couple hundred of community members will be here with Bunny for the breakfast. Last thing I'll say, it's not only education, not only its workforce, but its community. We will be at Celtic Fest on Saturday, Quakertown Alive. We're involved with all the Rotaries. We're involved with all the chambers of commerce. And when you think about that, the impact, what we do here on the community raises it to a whole nother level. And so we'll continue to do that. And that's my report. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
So what was, I know we were having a discussion during the finance committee about enrollment, and I saw you sort of skip over that on there. That might be something we wanted to not skip.
Okay.
We did kind of cut Mr. Hollowell off.
We have place. We have 161 current 8th graders that will be coming in next year. Quaker, 189 students are on the waiting list, 146 current 8th graders, and 43 high school students. We will then move forward to round 2 and 3. We'll then move forward with our transition meetings to make sure that students that have an IEP 504 and EL are supported. They'll meet our grade special ed team and the teachers. That's where we are with enrollment right now. It will go on for the next couple of weeks. I'd like to thank Mrs. Welding, who has championed this using the criteria in the system. Representative Stats is no longer here. A number of students that are homeschooled that have gone to private schools, which he wrote a bill for equal access. A larger number are now coming in because that's, again, that equal access. So we do and can make a difference when we take a look at best practices and work very closely with our elected officials and our board here and our boards of education back at the sending schools.
So I guess the only other question I had for enrollment is, right now, we only have 13 for computer networking and cybersecurity. Is that because there's only 13 that signed up for our first list? And I know Quakertown was apprehensive on sending students there. So are any of those 13 from Quakertown? And can we get them to on the ball to start?
Well, so what we'll do is we started working with the assistant superintendents that will be helping us promote that. There's a grant that came out from the state, a dual credit grant. And we applied for 75,000. I met with the Bucks County Community College who offered 20 credits for students in the computer networking, cybersecurity. If the grant goes through, they'll be able to get 20 credits free. Bucks County Community College said, we want your students, which is right next to Penn Ridge, on the site. They have the rooms developed already. So that's the plan, and we'll continue, I'll work with the school, we'll continue to go out and try to fill that program. And it's not unique in years past, like with Megatronics, we may have 17 students to start with as a gauge, but we'll start that next phase. I'm also bringing it up now, Bucks County Community College said, we love your facilities for vet tech. We meet every 2 weeks. We're still looking to get accreditation. I'll be coming to the JOC to set up another agreement where they could use our facilities. We'll give our students an access to the vet tech program. And again, shared resources. They may invest in our property. We're working very closely, Mr. Ritter's here with Quakertown Vet. And so it's just that vertical articulation agreements is the next step. And that's our vision between secondary and post-secondary.
Okay. So I guess for the subcommittee reports, we didn't really discuss anything in facilities, but I don't know if Mr. Moyer has anything he wanted to share with us.
No, we're blessed with a milder winter, so we're saving some funds on fuels. Looking forward to what the plans are for lining up work for this summer to start getting estimates and a plan of work for the cafeteria for the culinary expansion.
Okay.
Mr. Moore, we appreciate you tracking propane. It's not only the mild winter, you go above and beyond waking up in the morning, making sure all the energy doesn't come at the same time to save money. We were very hesitant to make some purchases. Mrs. Nelson and I first year and kind of pulled it off, but you continue to go above and beyond for that, and that shouldn't go unrecognized. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And not only are we going to have additional fuels, we'll have salt next year. Okay, right? Okay, and I guess with the finance, we'll just dive right back into our budget discussion.
Okay.
Where we left
Real
off.
quick, any questions on the audit presentation? No, our auditor's still here. For the joint.
Oh, he is still here.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm sure he would love his head home. Any questions before? Just want to make sure the whole JOC had an opportunity.
No, I think we're okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to make you wait. We could have told you could have left a while ago.
Did you want to give, did you want to give some kind of a,
Yeah.
did you want to share some kind of summary statement or anything? Since you're here, since you're here for us?
No, I'm good. I was just gonna stick around for the budget.
Oh, okay.
If there's any questions to kind of.
Yeah.
You got
Okay, yeah.
the budget all. Take on.
Thank you, Carl. So our budget overview, I'll be brief. Some of these slides we went over last month. Our enrollment, it has gone 43.47% from 2014 to 2015. We believe it meets the needs of the student community, business and parents, creates a balanced budget for the first time, growth is based on expenditures rather than revenue as done in the past, addresses our significant surge in enrollment, will continue to grow based on the record number of students, corrects the over reliance on fund balance as a source of revenue. We believe creates a clear fiscal picture of accountability and transparency. We will continue to look for creative staffing ways. Chief Feeling's in the room right now. We are looking to have those off-duty police officers work as a facilitator, as a substitute with Mr. Ritter. Again, being very strategic with our monies. The second school to work position, which we've really hit home. And the growth with that. And again, providing future opportunities with a partner, potential partner from ABC on getting as many students that need to, deserve to come to a CTC. Mr. Halliwell asked for the applications as of the 14th. We had completed 442 applications. 302 students are being placed. This is a breakdown by the school districts. Penridge, these are only new students, place first and place second choice, and other schools.
So if you go back to that one, I did have a question on this slide. Is there still slots available, or only if we add that additional section and the new program?
Or if students change their mind.
Or if students, but is this full placement right here, right now?
Yeah.
Even for the additional ag/law. I think it's what he's.
Yeah, and then.
No, this does not include
Doesn't
the,
include the new
It does
positions that are
include
brand new.
it does include the 13%.
yes, in the computer, not
The second,
yes,
not the second, which is,
Open seats.
yeah.
The ones that you've already filled.
yes.
And whether that goes to ag or law enforcement, would you expect to see the same amount of students from either new program? Like, say, if we added the ag teacher, it would be 35 students, but maybe law would be 38 students or something.
Well, I think the conversation we had last time was we're adding the ag position, and then for law enforcement, we're adding the additional facilitator.
Yeah.
We're increasing the law enforcement.
I'd like to just say, like, right now, I don't want to be a little premature. We will study trends. And then I will come back to the JOC for full approval. I want to be very strategic with adding programs. We were successful last year. And I will then report that back after the enrollment is finalized and we have a better picture.
And again, that's why it's sort of an open position here, so.
I like the open.
So that we can make sure that we're having it.
Mr. Space had the most conversation. The JOC has to feel very comfortable with that smart growth as a whole. So we're not going to take any action without your input. The waiting list of 189 students. This is what we're talking about, right? This is hopefully that student that came here as a ninth grader, if you couldn't get into diesel. Things may be a little different, right? Maybe he's not on co-op. Having students come in as ninth graders allows the students to go out. As early as Mr. Rock is still on there, we have 10th graders out on co-op, correct?
Yep, we definitely do. Not as many, but if the kids are motivated to be able to work on their task list and their instructor recommends that they're ready, then we look for replacement.
We looked at some trends where students are saying because an HVAC position, it doesn't work with their schooling. So we're seeing more and more kids go cyber or get their education on the outside so they could work longer hours. Is
That's
that true?
definitely true. I believe with the HVAC industry, there were 3 students and a construction student that within a month all went to cyber school or something of that nature, really just so that they could start work at 6 o'clock in the morning and have a full day of work and do their schoolwork at night.
We've got the best kids, right? And so that's what the companies are looking for, those types of students.
That's not offering their cyber program anymore.
Well, and that's another reason that Penridge worked to do it, to make the credits as flexible as possible, so that our kids have the ability to do that without necessarily having to go cyber and be able to do both.
To take that interest and that passion and the work ethic and just stay out of the way.
Success.
So we're looking to create state funding, so it's more centralized, and as both Mr. Cormack and Mr. Shermer and Representative Stats to fix that.
Okay.
Come on board. The nitty gritty now, so that's a great segment. We know that these are tough decisions with the budget and sending monies. And it's a shame that it comes down to our already stretched budgets, both at the sending schools and the technical schools. We know that these are hard decisions. When I look at the board member, I know that you have the students' best interests at heart, and you want to do what's best for the students. We may, how we get there may be a slight difference, and that's okay. But hopefully we come up with agreement and we continue to get students into the building.
You look forward to slide.
You want to just do a quick, okay,
Again?
no, it's okay.
Okay.
This one?
15. So. And here we go. Right, so this slide here is just another kind of picture of what you're looking at is the breakdown of your spending or where our revenues are gonna come from. So that's to put picture up top, can show those numbers. So your sending districts are in this budget is being asked for 9.7. State and federal funding would be just over $1 million. You have some grant revenues that we can project safely, but Perkins is continuous and ESSER is for one more year, 2024. So we've projected about 295,000. Debt service is in there, it's built in for the 2 schools. And then our VOCAS subsidy, it has been but stable, so we're projecting about 600,000 there for next year. Miscellaneous revenue is about 9,000. That includes your interest from your banks and then some donations as well. I can say I went more conservative with the interest. I mean, your interest rates are doing really well right now. However, I just don't know what it's going to be like next year, and I'm not comfortable basing my revenue on and having to pay bills on that. So I want lower, just so everybody knows. We go forward. This is just another picture, kind of in a snapshot looking from the current year to the projected year. So what you should see here is just how it's broken out in your funding with the removal of that debt service. I'm sorry, not debt service of your fund balance, the use of it. So that would be the 919,000 on the left for 22-23. And so that's where you're seeing that growth in terms of your school district. 23-24. Auditor fund balance. No, down at the bottom, 1.7.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that
one back. 1.7 is just slightly higher now, as we've heard today from him. So it's about 56,000 more, 7,000 more in there that I'll have to adjust the budget presentation. Going forward, this is a kind of a newer slide. The goal of this slide was to kind of show you how we derived the numbers. So working with the business managers, where earlier I said to you, backing out some of those areas that to make sure that we are doing a true basis for expenditures. When we're saying we're now going to charge based on last year's expenditures, you'll see to the right, 22-23. It started with the 12 million. That accounts for that additional 300,000 that was provided at the last minute, right? We started at really 11.7, but we added the 300,000. So we backed out the 135 to 776. So 135 is that reserve line, the budget reserve line that comes from your fund balance. The 776 is the barn renovations that we paid back. And the 90,000 was from food service. So this is where you get that 11,000 or 11 million just over. On the other side, this year comparison is the 11.9 minus my reserve line, which will be your 11.8. So the difference in those two lines is 751,000 or a 6.79% difference. When you then take into consideration, I've asked to make some further calculations based on
two things. One, your current 22-23 new addition programs. And then your projected new programs that you've added just now for 23-24. When you break those costs down and look at them, that's what your next lines show you. Overall, out of the 751,000, and the three combined really become, or the two combined becomes 82% of that difference, or accounting for 5% of the difference in your increase for your 23-24 budget. The remainder down below, the 128 would be about 1.5%.
So this for me is the most important slide in the presentation. It really, I thank you, Tanya. It really breaks down the budget very clearly so you can see it from all different angles. I know so many people wanted to have it broken down in all different ways. So she was able to break it down every single way that everybody wanted it, between the business administrators and the superintendents and all of us. So, you know, I thought it was helpful to show that expenditure to expenditure from the 22-23 to 23-24 budget, it actually went down almost 1%. And then when you take into account the fact that the renovation for the ag building and the cafeteria were in there last year, if you remove that, that brings it to the 6.79% as a difference. But that doesn't take into account, you'll remember last year when we were talking about, are we going to add additional programs, the extra section for healthcare, the extra section, all of those things, right? So we put in that 300,000, which I think was a recommendation from Quakertown, was to put that in, which was helpful. I think the actual calculation ended up being 528,000. So that's $228,000 above that those new programs ended up costing last year. But since that wasn't budgeted for, you'll actually see that as an increase this year from last year, because we had those unfilled positions, which was moved to cover those expenses. But now those positions are filled. So now you're going to see that increase, which is based on those programs, plus the additional 394,000 for the new programs that we added this year. And so when you take all of that into account to see the apples to apples comparison and pull out the programs and look at how much just has the operational expenses increased, you know, apples to apples, you're really looking at a 1.53% budget increase. When you pull out cafeteria, you pull out the renovation, you pull out, you know, those additional programs, when you're just looking at operational expenses, you know, only going up that 1.53%. When you talk about programs that are equipment heavy and material heavy, you know, I think that shows that it's really, really doing a good job here.
Do we plan on doing the cafeteria and the roof renovation?
I think we have to do the roof renovation. I think we agreed to do the barn renovation
We do plan to do both.
for the barn, and then the cafeteria.
To go in the budget, you can't pull them out and say that they don't count.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. I think we're talking about two different things. We were talking about the ag building renovation, that the
So you can compare apples to apples, because we're not doing another renovation this year.
We have included in the budget, and my point is to pull it out, it doesn't count.
No, Chuck, we're talking about two different things. This was the ag building renovation, and it was the business managers who asked to have that parsed out, because 776,000 that was spent this year was spent on that renovation.
Be budgeted for. So that's right.
No, it is. And if you look at the top line, right, when those things are budgeted for, that's the 0.96% increase. What was pulled out was the ag building renovation for this year, which was right. Budget, because this is we're talking about 22, 23, 20.
We're talking about the 21, 20.
So it was a reimbursement to the schools.
Yeah.
So in our accounting line, it came across as an expenditure. So when you'll see it in a couple slides when I get there, you will see it as an expenditure. And speaking to the business manager, the expenditure it was reimbursed from the fund balance, which I concurred with them should come out of our expenditure line. We should not bill them for an expenditure that was reimbursed out of our fund balance. So, because remember, we are billing based on last year's expenditures. So with that in mind, we backed out something that was taken, reimbursed from fund balance, because it didn't come here from your fund 10. So that's where that comes from.
And Chuck and Jim, I think for this description, it's being backed out so we can compare apples to apples, because we're not building another ag building right now. So if you want to compare last year to this year, you don't want to have that one-time expense in there, you know,
Well, and
as part of the budget since it had to be budgeted.
But I think Chuck, tell me if I'm wrong, what he's saying is there's still an apples to apples comparison, but it's really the main topic that has to get resolved, which is if we're doing capital expenditures in the coming year, how are we budgeting for them? Are we creating a capital reserve fund? Or is it going to be like we did with the ag building out of a different, a fund 10? Right, so in fact, it's, you can't do an apples to apples, because if we decide to do the capital reserve fund, you won't have a comparison from last year's budget.
Our fund balance is unfortunately dwindling. I know the auditors in the room, we had that conversation. The fund balance that we've had in the past is no longer there.
I just got, there's just a ton of information thrown at me today. And it's very difficult. I know that we're going to be asked for a vote later. It's going to be very difficult for me to have a well-informed position. I mean, because again, I looked at the presentation late last night, and then Chris called me today. Did you see the presentation? I said, yeah, I saw it last night. He said, no, there's another. So, and I said, oh, well, and then of course I'm out somewhere and don't have a computer with me. It's very difficult for me to make a decision. And at the end of the day, I think the numbers are good. But we're going to go back to the sending districts. I'm going to ask for $900,000 more. That's what's got. And I got to face Todd Hill. He's big. He's a lot bigger than I.
Soften them up for you.
Yeah. You got no shot. So, and I don't want to be, getting down here, but it's very difficult for me to have an informed decision with, the task of going back to the sending district and saying, okay, we need $9 million. Especially, we're tight. We're looking at what we're going to do as far as tax increase or no tax increase. And this might break at one or the other for us. At the end of the day, that's important.
I can add some insight. You guys aren't paying the whole $900,000 $1 million.
Yeah.
It's split to 44% or 40%.
We're 46.
Whatever. But it's something, so it's actually $9 million. So
It's a lot.
we can give, Palisades. States.
So we're not asking to take an additional $1 million. We're just asking to not return
I think
that $1 million.
I have a bit of accounting behind me, and I've been thinking and married to an auditor. So I have some insight, and it's but again, it's a ton of information thrown in at the last minute. It's very difficult for me to have it.
Well, here's what I could say though.
Decision that I'm comfortable with.
I think the difference in today's presentation is really just the adjustments that we asked for in the last meeting. So if you remember, when it was presented last meeting, we had asked to have those other things filled in.
There's some of it
Right.
here.
So it's all built in, but this presentation, yeah.
Still looking for the budget to actually variances. We still need to understand what the budgetary reserves are. I think that we need to say, listen, we're going to have a set budgetary reserves, and we need to have go back to the 8% fund balance. And we also need to set up how we're going to handle the unused funds at the end of the year. Where do they go back? They don't go back. And what that is. Again, a lot of this is up in the air, and Tanya and people got to go back and say, listen, this is what we huddled up, and this is what we have agreed to. Do you agree or not? And that way, this time next year, we don't have this conversation about how we account it. But like I said, for me right now, it's just tough for me to make an informed decision.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and this was a lot of information, but this information hasn't changed much. Just the presentation of it has changed. So what we're really looking for is one fundamental question that everyone's gonna have, whether or not to send that money and to keep this capital, to keep a capital fund here. That's the only decision, you know, and the other thing is, we can, if we do vote to approve this budget today, right, after it goes to the business offices of the business administrators and goes through the finance committees at the sending districts, there can be changes to this in April at our next meeting as well. But if we approve it now, then it goes through those other things you know, and no one has any other comments on it, then it's passed and it's through. So we always can still make amendments. In fact, that's what we did last year when we added that 300,000. It came after
exactly
the initial approval.
Just to help my understanding where I'm at, right? And I know that Palisades has questions. There were questions at the Penridge meeting that, you know, I watched the meeting. It was pretty informative, and I tried to understand exactly where their business manager was coming from. So those questions, and I would love to have some of the answers to those. I mean, they were very good. They were valid questions, but you know, the big thing for me is we're going to go back out to the business managers, and we want to make sure that we have everything tight. So, you know, it doesn't reflect poorly on us, because if we, and again, basic issue, there's some procedural things. I think the accuracy is right. But I think, you know, but again, I haven't had enough time to digest it. And
I mean, a vote.
We tabled it last meeting, if I remember correctly. So I don't know that we have to do something with it this meeting.
Well,
Just procedurally.
Oddly, all the JOC is doing is essentially authorizing administration to present a budget, right? You don't, the JOC doesn't approve it.
We do only approve it.
No, the joint boards do.
No, we have. Sending it to them.
Sending it to the joint board.
But there's nuance distinction there, right? You're not actually saying, I agree with this budget. You're saying, I agree that the administration can go talk to the joint board about it. That's actually what this vote is. And ask for approval.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And they went out and it didn't go well. There were a bunch of questions at Palisades.
Well, we haven't even.
There were still, we have questions.
The finance committee.
Our finance committee passed it to the
I
board.
understand with, as I understand that there was a contingent based on answering questions to your business manager. So that's the way that I understand it.
That Drew still has some.
Drew, we send it, we're gonna send it to Drew.
Yes,
Right.
the minutes read that way.
Yeah.
So that's another, you know, fur over the saddle, you know, it's I would like to have more time to take a harder look.
So we will, and so will the sending districts. The question though,
Before you go out and get.
but we have to answer one question. We have to answer one question though tonight. What to do with that reserve money, what to do with that $1,048,000. Because if it goes to the business administrators or it goes to the finance committees, they have to know what they're dealing with when they get it. And that's the only unanswered question from us right now.
And I can't answer that because I don't know how the business managers must account for that money and how it hits the sending district's books. I do not know that.
Well, and that's something that you guys will explore. And again, this vote doesn't approve the budget. This vote sends it to them.
And then the joint board approves the budget. So if the sending districts don't agree with the budget, they wouldn't have this in the back.
Can do.
I mean, I think at this point, we gotta send it.
I've seen.
We've seen it a million times at this point.
But do we have to send it with that answer? Do we need that?
We have to approve it in some format and send it in that format. And I think, you know,
To answer that
this
question.
format that's in here right now.
Format is the expenditure budget. There's no question about that.
No, but that one question.
If we're
so
sending-
what do we do with that?
If we're sending it to the sending districts, we have to send it in one form, so that way everybody's looking at it in the same format. And then if there's concerns about that format, then they can share those concerns, they can modify, they can vote on it, you know, modified.
However, the reimbursement is not factored into the budget right now, so if you send it,
We need to send it with what we're doing with the reimbursement.
it is not in your budget.
But I thought the way that you have it accounted for is it's bringing the fund balance to the 8%, and then the rest is going into capital, which is where you'd be
That's
pooling.
your fund balance. That's been accounted for, but the return of $1 million has not been determined.
Well, so we're not, like Mr. Khan said, we don't return the money, it would be an offset in the budget. So whether
So
you're,
then that changes your entire budget. So we will have to then take that 10.5 or the 9.7 million, or well, we'll go back to the 10.5, and we have to reduce that amount of what they're going to send us each month. So that has to be recalculated.
right, but it's a reduction in the budget. If we are still sending that same amount into capital, which is what you did, right? Then
You're talking
the
fund
budget is
balance.
fine. But if you don't want to send it into capital and you want to send it back,
I think there may be a
that's something
misspeak.
else.
So you're saying that at 8% and with a certain amount of money, how much money in a capital
You're
reserve
doing
fund?
two different
I
things,
know,
right?
that's what I'm trying to spell out here. So with the existing fund balance, not
Not your budget.
not your budget, not the overpayments. The existing fund balance,
Where
you're
your
gonna be
revenues
at,
are gonna come from, right?
you're gonna be at 8% still in your fund balance with an additional certain amount of money in a capital reserve fund.
Right, which is completely separate from the $1 million reimbursement.
So that's 1.5, and then you're saying there's also 1,048 in overpayments, which currently,
1.7, yep, in your fund balance, and then you have the issue of the 1,048,000, we have to
do
determine.
you see what I'm saying, Megan? You're actually talking about almost 2.6 million, not 1.
I thought when we looked at the unassigned fund balance is $1,757,000 and $203. Less return back to the districts is $1,048,000.
So we have questions, right? So absolutely, so questions.
Okay.
Hold on. We have questions. I mean, I'm happy to have a special meeting. I don't want to hold up the process. I just wanted to be clear to understand the capital reserve, the refund, the $800,000 in budgetary reserves. All of this stuff, we need, if we're going to establish a practice, we need to establish a practice and have it understood and agreed to by the sending district business managers. And again, we need a special meeting on this. I'm happy to do it.
The information is in the slide. Can you turn back?
Okay,
to
we have confusion here.
Tanya, can you go over this again, please?
I'm trying to answer it right now.
Well, it is.
It's in here.
It's more than a question. Well, let me try to give you a little history here. There was a time when there was no fund balance allowed at the tech school. The districts had to spend and pay for everything. And it was allocated.
The articles of agreement to include a fund balance.
Well, that's was the state law. Once the tech schools could not have fund balance. The state changed the law a few years ago, 10, 15, while I've been on the board. So that the tech schools could have a fund balance. The state then came and say, all schools should stay under 8% on an unassigned fund balance. Fine, we can do that. Now, here, when the fund balance came and we had surpluses that went into a fund balance, we used the fund balance to balance the budget when we didn't want to pull enough annual money from the sending schools. When you had basically because of Quaker Town's financial issues at the time, and they're similar to what they are now. there's been a process over the years, recently, where we're trying to get some control over how much the sending schools send over expenditure budget. A few years ago, I don't know, 5 years ago, the business managers came up with this formula where I'm sorry.
Wow,
Yeah.
I called you Teresa, he's doing that.
That formula that John is talking about, where they take the actual expenditures and give back and all that kind of stuff. That's not written in stone anywhere. It's just a way to come up with a comfortable number that the districts can use to budget their budgets for how much money is sent over here. That being said, if you just think about the budgets, not how much money goes here or back or whatever, just what is budgeted to come over here. If you disregard the amount that's supposedly going back. And on that point, the articles don't say that it has to go back. It doesn't say that it has to go back against the budgeted numbers. It just says that
It actually
the
It actually
first part
does.
has to go
It's
back.
written in stone now, because that's the new 11th Amendment to the Articles of Agreement that we.
Listen.
voted on.
It has to go back, but it doesn't have to affect the budget. Doesn't say anything about that has to go against the budget.
It's actually.
It doesn't say
That's
that,
literally what it says, that goes against the budget.
it says it has to go back.
It doesn't say it has to go back. It says that it has to be built into the budget. That's what the Articles of.
No.
Mr. Khan, can you please read what it says? Because that's exactly what it says.
Upon completion of the annual local auditors report, refunds of overpayment or payment for shortfalls will be incorporated into the budget formula for the subsequent fiscal year based on the same ADM shares upon which the completed year was budgeted.
So build into the budget. Thanks.
Understood.
So the articles dictates already, we have to have our fund balance at 8%. That's what we agreed to when we did the 11th Amendment of the Articles of Agreement. So that part is decided. The deciding factor here is whether the remainder, after bringing it to 8%, should go into capital or just offset the budget. And
It has to go to offset the budget.
what's that?
He just read that it has to go to offset the budget.
Well, it is, but you can offset the budget and build in money to capital, which means that you would basically counteract each other, right? Either way, it's offsetting the budget. You're just deciding whether or not you're also budgeting that same amount of money to go into capital. That's really the decision you're making. It's all in the same, what did you say, bowl of soup or whatever you said earlier, pot of soup?
Well, the other question is, since that roof, that $54,000 roof repair and the $25,000 floor in the barn is not budgeted for next year, wouldn't it be
this budget?
It was supposed to come out of the capital fund. That's what we decided in the last meeting.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, if we don't put money in the capital fund, it can't come out of a fund that doesn't have money in it. So that's the point. If you want to fund that.
That's not the capital fund, that's
not
fund
capital.
balance, yeah.
That's what we're talking about. We're saying, if you don't put money in the capital fund, you can't fix the roof. You can't do the renovation of the cafeteria.
It could be expense. That can be expense.
Yeah, and then just raise charge, so the semi districts would have to pay for it.
But is you have to use it within 5 years.
Yes, well, we use it then.
What we talked about,
Keep forever.
right, what the JOC had decided last meeting and the direction that we gave our business administrator was to build that money into, was to put that money into the capital and then pool these projects from the capital fund. That's why it was written the way that it is, based on what we all asked her to do last meeting. And can you just review on this slide, how much money actually goes into the capital fund after we've refund the 8%? What is that amount of money we're talking about that either is going into capital
When you
or not?
refund the 8%, you mean?
After we replenish the fund balance to 8%. So what is the amount of money we're talking about that's left that either goes into capital or we don't? We either add that amount to go into capital or we don't.
Or give us a percentage district.
Of that, but that's really the decision we're talking about right here, right now.
And that was the.
I just wanted you to know, the calculation for the millions has to be then reduced out of the number that you're currently looking at. So we would have to change those numbers. I just want to make sure everybody.
I thought you said on that slide, that's what you put, those are the numbers you put on that slide right there.
So, okay, we'll start.
So can you show that?
Slide 10. Where do we start?
Right now, we're having some technical difficulties. Mr. Lassamore is on top of it.
We got paper copies.
Yeah.
It's also.
Yeah, we have to-
Just get it. I really.
I know, but I'm assuming it means the public who are just putting them open or not. actually.
By technical.
Okay, let's take a recess then and come back. We're gonna vote to take a recess. Yeah, so you can still.
Explain exactly what the numbers are real quick.
All right. So starting on, are we back up first?
Yes, I think we are, yeah, we good. All right.
Okay, so we're going back to slide 10. My now understanding, we are required to keep the 8% in, which would be $956,499. That's coming out of the $1,757,203 of fund balance. The remainder would be $800,704.
So that is the magic number, $800,704.
Correct.
We are either just leaving it in as an offset, or we're building in $800,000 that's going to capital, and then it becomes a wash. That's what's happening in the budget. So that's what we're deciding. Or we can do a hybrid version of that. That's the decision really that we have to make, that $800,000. And just to confirm, how much was it for the roof project? How much was it for?
54 for the roof, 25 for the barn.
Okay, so that gets you to basically $80,000.
We're talking about. Which barn? The floor in the large animal barn.
So that's $80,000. Then we have the cafeteria renovation, which we don't have salary numbers for. And so do we leave the 800,000 in there and we use that for, do we build in an $800,000 capital reserve? That leaves that $800,000 in there. 80,000 of it would go to those two projects and the rest could go to the cafeteria, any other necessities over the next several years. And then we don't need to put more money into capital. That we can continue to use that over the next couple of years. And obviously at each continuing year, boards are going to have to make a decision about whether we're adding more to the capital fund or not. That 800,000, that's the number we're talking about.
So Chuck, what you're talking about then is that 800,000 split by the 3 different districts. Looking at Quakertown's number, and I have to use my phone calculator here, is, 800,000 times 0.46 is $368,000 to Quakertown. So, if at any point Quakertown was expecting to get, $1 million back, that's not, we're not talking about that much money. We're talking Quakertown's going to be dealing with $120 million budget. This $360,000, where it's significant, is not going to break that budget. It's not going to cause us to have to raise taxes to meet that.
And the reality is no one was planning on getting that money back. That was money that was budgeted for 2 years ago for positions that were unfilled.
Okay, I have a few simple questions that I'd like to get out there. First question is, how much money was budgeted to come from the sending schools? Irregardless of whatever it is, but how much was the sending schools cost for 21, for 22, 23? 23,
24 next year.
No, listen to me. I want to know what the budgeted number was to come from the sending schools for 22, 23. And then I want to compare that to the budgeted numbers for 23, 24. That's what I want to know the difference about. This whole question about whether we want to send the money back or do whatever with it, it's not part of the discussion for the
That's
budget.
on slide 12.
Yeah. So here's 23, 23.
900. So the total, 919,
So for 22-23, it was just slightly over 8 million.
Okay.
I'm having technical
You
difficulties,
are.
so let's just use the hard copies for this one.
So it's just over
Number
$8
down.
million.
So for 23, 24, Peter, you got it up on cash, is that
About
correct?
$2 million difference.
$2 million difference. Yeah.
But that's including your debt service for the.
Oh,
two
never mind.
pool. If you go to the far left, it's 9,790,000.
What pages you're on?
Well,
It's almost 1.8 million. Difference
take your debt
from the
service,
sending school. Okay, that's what we need to be talking about,
page 12, Trevor.
because that's the actual monies that are gonna come out of the sending schools.
And this number is reflective of us putting the 800,000 in capital. If we don't, that
It
would
is?
deduct this number. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take into account a return of the million.
Okay, we're talking about the 9.8 million.
so if you put the 800,000 in capital, this number right here, Jim, is the number that we would pay.
No. No.
Yes, yes, that's what she
Number right
said.
where?
On this slide that you're looking at, the other finger on.
No, 9.8, if you take the 800.
Do you think my computer?
It's already built in, Jim. It's built into that number. That's
Okay, that's what I need.
No, it's on this. Oh, yeah, that's why I said, Peter, could you make somebody else's computer be shared? Oh, anybody can share their screen, so.
I got it.
This,
So where's the 1.8 million in expenditures? That's different.
so slide 12, scroll down a little so they can see the bottom. And I think we're good then. Oh, yeah, you need slide 12.
Yes. 21, 12. I'm just, I recognize that.
Oh.
Okay.
How
You
about
can start
12?
there if you want.
Twelve.
Take a look,
One
you
more.
need to start there,
What
let's
happened?
start there.
All right.
So when we're looking at it, here's our expenditures, right? They're like 9. The current capital, 44. When we're looking at those numbers, the 956 and the one above it, the 743.
Yeah.
I know, I feel like I gotta get up and start.
Here.
Here.
You want to use
Give
this?
me the van.
Yeah,
The laser pointer?
the laser, so now I gotta. So we go here, here and here, add up, you're gonna be your 1.7. I'm a little low because our auditor was more generous and found another 57,000. I've got to add in later. But that is coming out of there. So that is your fund balance that your auditor talked about earlier today. This is not in there, coming out of your fund balance right now. That's why we talked about options, right? Moving forward, go to that next slide. Well, slide one.
One more.
That's the.
There you go.
Okay. You'll see, you start with the 10.5, how we backed out of last year's expenses. We started, I started with 11.7. You actually had 12, you ended up approving 12 million because you added the extra 300,000, right? But you can't get to the 10. Then I'm backing out. Have to match my revenues and expenditures, right? Nowhere in here do you see the million return. That I want to make sure everybody's clear on.
So the 800,000 going in, so putting 800,000 into capital leaves you with these accurate numbers.
Correct.
Those are the numbers that we would be paying from our sending districts. They're the accurate numbers based on us putting $800,000 into capital.
And these are the numbers that our business administrators have been using to build your budgets at your sending district.
Goes far, so using or not using. So let's not say that.
Okay, these are the numbers they should have been using.
I have a question. Yeah. The 22, 23 column. What is that number?
That is what you paid in 22-20.
That is what we paid?
Correct.
That's the give back or not?
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, there was a
To get back.
reconciliation from 21-22.
120.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
It was
Yeah, it wasn't much.
minor.
Yeah.
But we did have to
The
pay that
actual
back.
number that.
You were, because it was 8.1 originally, and she reduced the amount you gave her based on that 124,000.
So the real, in my mind, the real difference is at 8.9 or 8.0.
It's 8.0, it should be an 8.1 since, because we returned that 120,000.
But, and also.
No,
and-
Somebody's trying to compare.
Districts budgeted for in 22-23 was the $8 million.
But what were expenditures?
And what we're budgeting.
I know.
Yes, the budget for now is the $10 million.
Hold on, though. What were the budgeted, what were the actual expenditures for 22-23?
They were less than that.
We can go forward a couple slides. We'll do that one.
It was $1 million less.
What number? One more?
Keep going. I didn't get here, yay. It's going to.
17.
Oh, it gets shut off. Alright,
Go ahead, scroll up a little bit. You can scroll up a little bit.
Okay.
Right, what page here?
This is just Mike, I think something's wrong with his computer, right? He can't scroll.
Go
with his
to
eyes.
20 and 21. 21 will give you your bottom line,
You can share mine.
your actuals. I have my table. 21, 22 to the far right is your actuals. 22, 23 we're currently living in, and 23, 24 is on the left, you're projected. So then if we do that,
So
go
that,
back,
so for 21-22, it says 9.7 is the total general fund expenditure.
That's the actual number, yeah. But the budgeted number is.
But that's
not-
21-22. That was not, that's not. So you're talking about the year before, not the year we're in.
Well, hold on. You're right. Hold on.
21-22 was last year. That's the audited numbers.
Right. So 23-24.
22-23
We don't have
budgeted
actuals
numbers.
yet.
so your 21, 22 are your actuals, and that's, I think, what you're really asking.
So on
What
slide
could be actually
21,
spent.
so slide 21, the second comment from the right is the 22-23 budget, which is what we're living in now.
Right.
That's at $12 million.
Which is 4 million above.
I actually gave each one of you an additional form paper today that gave you a 5-year look.
And Tanya, I'm not gonna hold you to this if you don't know the answer to it, but so where did the 4 million come from since? Since the 22-23 payments by districts were 8.1 million. And the total expenditures were 12 million, where did the
For 21, 22, you're talking, or,
22-23?
so that would be your projected other, in terms of your grants. Those reimbursements, right? I think that was like 1.6.
And was it fund?
And you were expected to use almost $1 million out of fund balance, it's 919,000. So
And the reason I'm making that point, Jim, is if you add that 1 million from the reserve fund to the 8.1. It's actually, if you add, for that year, 22-23, you took $1 million out of reserve to meet your expenditures. So if you add that million to 8.1, you're at 9.1. What they're trying to do with this budget, and I don't get a vote, what they're trying to do with this budget is not have you taking out of reserve fund to meet.
I understand that completely.
But it's all your money at the end of the day. So you did pay $9.1 million in 22-23. You just did some of it out of reserve from a prior year.
Yes.
And some of it from direct
Right,
contribution.
exactly.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep, exactly.
So we go.
So let's get back to my point. Let's get back to. Clear it up. So in the 22-23 budget that we're living in now, the total expenditures that were budgeted came up to $12 million.
Yes, sir.
The total expenditures for the proposed 23-24 budget is 11.9, which is basically the same number.
Right.
Yep.
Why are we having an issue?
That's with that.
Somebody came out and had to communicate.
Jim, anything you said.
Yes. Yes, but the difference is you were borrowing money last year. 10 years. That's exactly right. So, well, so this. Since the first month, it doesn't. Previous.
Right.
Yeah, so
17, I know there was a million in,
At one point.
You need a motion.
Well, what's
and so the one question. Okay.
Chris doesn't know when to.
Money. We finished with the finance subcommittee. I capital reserve. Capital reserve, capital reserve. About $800,000, which you can then. It's in here. Is there $1,000 going into the capital reserve?
Oh.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
We need to have Jim work out the template for how it's presented next time.
Years ago, or whatever.
Presentation is cumbersome. And
Yeah, I'm still not gonna be. in
It's
it.
gonna be as not good about it.
Finance some time to make a comment. Policies, any policy changes this month? Other, I don't know. Programs, nothing. Okay, so we will now move into the consent agenda. We have February minutes. The February financial reports, there is 4 of them in there, and I guess okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Wait, hold on. Which is the bills list. Personnel recommendations, which are the retirement of 2 cafeteria workers, Cynthia Bish and Rose Nebel. And a new hire for Briar Rose Diaz. That is C.
That was prior.
Or that is G.
Yeah. You just need to say that.
Okay, well, we can do that in the comment part, but I believe Briar is related to Mary Ann. Okay.
And,
So if you had to vote, you would have to abstain, but since you don't get to vote, then.
I'd like to thank Bob.
Yeah. Now, we have the school, the UBCTS calendar draft. Did anyone have any comments on that? Well, we'll get to the comments when we get to the motion. Okay, approve the MOU between Upper Bucks Technical School and the Bureau of Career and Technical Education for the participation in the BCTE Technical Assistance Program TAP for the 23-24 school year. And then G, approved budgetary transfers per attached document.
And before we get a motion, is there anybody who wants any of these consent items removed from the consent agenda?
No,
You want A removed?
yes,
Okay.
I'll make a motion from D through G.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions or comments about what we'd like to see? G, and I guess now we can have the comment about the personnel recommendation. Did you have something, Dr.
I
Herrera?
just want to thank Bob for being on the interview committee. The facilitator is a licensed cause teacher. And I don't know, Bob, if you want to say anything.
She was a fantastic interview. She will fit right in. Really fit right in. So we're very excited to be able to have her. Licensed teacher as a facilitator, it sounds like she's really overqualified, so that's awesome. We're really lucky to have her.
She has
That's
the
great.
teaching experience, yes, so that's fantastic. That's a big help.
She comes from a family of teachers.
Yeah. And she's young, so, you know, there's a day where some people retire and, you know.
You.
Never gonna
Yeah,
happen.
not soon. So she could step right in then, you know, maybe. We'll see. But no, I was very excited to be able to interview her and she should be fantastic. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. I did have a question about E. This, the school calendar, how have you, is everything coordinated? Do you have a lot of, separate days between Penridge, Palisades and Quakertown, like a lot of off days?
No, we don't.
Okay,
It's very good.
syncs pretty good this year, okay. Any other questions or comments about B through G?
On all these motions,
Yep,
personnel, and now I did get the financials prior to today. But I have not seen the personnel or any of the other attachments.
they've been on the agenda since last
Okay,
Wednesday.
how do I get to see that?
You have to
Oh.
log in.
You log in to log in.
So that's executive.
You have to log into the draft,
Figure out how to do that. Thank you.
the draft side.
Yeah,
To log in and see them on the drafts until they're released.
It should be released earlier though, so.
well, no, these were released last Thursday, correct?
Not publicly.
They
'cause
were
I didn't
not.
choose
to the
it.
public.
Probably to the.
No, to the draft, though. Yeah, to the board.
Right, they should be released earlier so the public can see them.
Well, that's what I always say.
JARs go live 24 hours before, at the IU, they go live 24 hours before. I don't know what Palisades and Quakertown do, but we could adjust it if people want.
We do 3 days.
Well,
Public?
there, I think it's 2 days. Don't you do it Tuesday? Don't you?
Not always.
Oh, okay.
I think what's the
Sometimes
requirement
we
is
have
1 day, right?
Yeah, the one-
Yeah.
we would like to see it in public.
You could have, you could have seen it, and I know it stumbles me sometimes. I'm looking for the agenda and I'm Mike's number halfway down the album, and then I look and see it in the draft. So,
For me to see the draft, I have to. run
You
it
log
through
in.
loops.
You log, yeah, you have to log in to see it, because it's,
Start out at the UDCTS.
yeah,
would everybody like it to go live? Because usually it's been the 24-hour rule, but if you want it earlier,
I'd like 3
it's
days.
fine with me.
Yeah, 3
Whatever you wanna
days.
do.
I was gonna say, have you.
so if our meeting is Thursday, you're saying you'd like to have it by the end of the day, Monday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think that is
Yeah.
reasonable?
We listened to the JOC and we got it out that week before, and now to the public, we'll do our best on that Monday to release it to the public.
And then like this,
We do a lot of work on the weekend, fine tuning it, on the technical school, a lot of things come at the last minute, but what we learned was just release it that week ahead of time for you. And sometimes if you get things added, then we'll add it. So we're getting that habit of that Monday coming after the weekend to release it to the public.
And it can be, it doesn't have to be first.
And this is a strictly editorial comment. If we would have the committee meetings sometime the week prior, then we could make some decisions as to what goes on the agenda. Without hashing them out.
Well, we do have an agenda. We do have an agenda meeting the week before where we go over what's going on the agenda.
But that's not committed.
You know, if we had such a lengthy meeting, Jim, we wouldn't have heard the best comment from you tonight.
The sending districts don't do that either. 2 hours. Just the president and vice president do the agenda setting meeting beforehand. And I'm sure.
Okay, that only started 2-3 years.
He's not talking about that. He's talking about committee meetings, but
Yeah.
discussion about keeping them on the same night, mostly because juggling 3 different school district schedules to get in another date just didn't work.
Tried 4 years ago.
Yeah, we tried.
We do have the comment section for B through G, still have to vote for that. So is there any other comments for consent agenda items B through G? Call the questions.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's passed.
Motion to approve consent agenda item A.
What is that?
He asked for the minutes separate, because he was here last week or last month.
I wasn't here last, so I'm gonna abstain.
But you could have abstained. No,
I could
okay.
have abstained from everything.
I got you.
I appreciate what
I got you. Any further comments? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
There we go.
Either one.
Okay, so we have the approval of an out-of-state travel for Craig Guest to attend the ABC in Atlantic City, New Jersey on March 30th at a cost to UBCTS not to exceed $370.
A second.
Any questions?
I said, budget.
No. Okay, any other questions? Any opposed, any abstentions? Number 9, okay. So number 9 is a motion to approve the proposed preliminary budget for the 23-24 school year and for its submission to the joint operating or to the joint board for final approval.
So moved.
Second. Any questions?
Just a clarification that it includes the 800,000 being in capital and the 8% being, the fund balance being brought up to the 8%. Yes, it's built in there. Remember,
It may be built in the budget.
Yeah.
It would be part of the budget, not motion.
Yeah, this.
It doesn't need to be part of the motion.
Make sure that it's tight and crisp.
Okay.
Don't spend 2.5 hours figuring out exactly what the number is, because then we'll look wrong, and then I get a chance to say, I told you so.
So Tanya, that's the shot. Okay, so
See.
Motion and a second.
yes, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Sounds not-
Any abstentions? Oh, we have one opposed. That's just a finger though. That doesn't count.
Yeah, we.
I'm opposed to the
It's one.
Any
There's filling that out. What are we voting on?
No,
send the budget to sending districts, finance committees.
You're a no.
I'm a no.
7-2.
Okay,
Nick.
So it passes.
so it passes.
But yeah.
Okay.
Recognition.
All right, recognition and comments from the audience for non-agenda items. Hearing none. Oh, wait, we've got one chat here. 4 chats now.
Congratulations, Greg, and Rose.
I don't know what's going on here.
they were all just congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay.
Oh, for there.
All right, hearing no public comments, we'll move on to the.
We lost 6
Oh, we
participants.
do have a hand now? Okay, Nancy Overton.
Hi, I just wanted to comment quick things. First of all, the audio for this meeting was really, really hard to hear. And the video was rough as well. There's just basically 5 people with their cameras on, and you really can't see who's speaking during the meeting. In addition, I just wanted to make 2 other comments. I'm really pleased to see that you're hiring or plan to hire a second co-op teacher. The woman you have has just been a wonderful replacement to Mrs. Reese, and I wouldn't want to burn her out or lose her if she found something with a shorter commute. I also wanted to ask about the HVAC classroom. I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that during the period when there wasn't a committed teacher, that there was a lot of equipment and supplies that disappeared from that classroom. And I really want to support all our new teachers. Not only is it tough to be a new teacher, but tough to walk into a position where there's been a lot of less structure than would be ideal. And then in addition, to come into a classroom that doesn't have the equipment and the supplies that you need. And I want to make sure that this teacher has adequate budget to replace those things and has what he needs to teach. So that's it for my comments. Bravo on the co-op teacher, and please help the HVAC teacher, and the presentation of the meeting could use a little refining. Thank you.
Ms. Overton, was there any issues with missing equipment, and is it being able to be replaced?
We have the insurance appraisal coming in this month. Mike Henry has done an excellent job over the last month. And we did budget some equipment for him and the supplies, etc. He has an excellent mentor in our whole staff. I'll talk to Marianne and Barb on that he has full support with the induction. Mrs. Nice has been helping, Ms. Pakula.
Okay, but there has been some materials that went missing from that classroom, and you're bringing in an insurance adjuster?
No, we have the appraiser and the insurance adjuster. That's coming in, Ms. Nelsnick, what month? This month?
We're doing the asset.
Oh, that's what that, for the asset inventory.
That's not an adjustment.
I'm not aware of an insurance.
Yeah, no, that's what I was asking about, yeah.
Is appraisal, is it an appraisal, the asset inventories?
The asset inventory
Yeah.
occurred this month.
Yes.
It's not for
The question Chris is asking,
property law.
is there,
Was there a property loss and, you know,
Would be, I'd have to contact our insurance.
So there was no reported property loss, if I could jump in.
okay,
There was frequent visitation going on between Mr. Ritter, Mr. Gale, myself, two facilitators. There was a lot of attention paid in that room. What we're finding is that students are reporting that there were some things that went missing prior to Mr. Conrad starting in the beginning of this year. But I can firmly report that there was no report filed of any theft in that program. There is some damaged equipment, and that is what we were trying to rectify. But I'm not sure where the report of theft occurring.
So are you saying that there was equipment that went missing, but before the last teacher left?
That is
that what you're saying?
hearsay from the students saying that things went missing. At this point, one of the activities I had the students do was take an inventory. I want you to inventory all the consumables, inventory the equipment, inventory anything and everything, so that we had an accurate starting point when Mr. Henry started.
okay.
It's logical.
So.
You did it.
That's why we should do that assets inventory.
Yeah.
Get that done, because that way we.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very excited for them to come in. Mr. Ritter?
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of piggyback off Steve was mentioned. You're 100% correct. To the best of my knowledge, with the time that was spent down there, with all the support, I'm not aware of anything missing. I know there was some minor disruption down there. I think that what's being referred to, I would have to agree with her, is before the previous, I think that we're looking at, and that's all hearsay. There hasn't been anything there to actually confirm that one way or the other. So to the best of my knowledge, everything's been good to go. And with the three of us and multiple people in there supporting whoever's down there, there's been no reports made.
Any reported theft that Chief Phelan's in the room, that immediately gets reported to Chief Phelan. He's in the building, it's active, and they investigate that, and there's a police report made. Okay.
Okay, so now we are,
One other comment in here.
my
just letting-
computer died, by the way, I can't
Okay,
tell.
just letting us know that it was from Mrs. Penn, that it was difficult to hear audio because when many people were speaking at one time, the audio translated very jarbled.
So
So-
it's just a change of the mics. I mean, that's the one change from the last.
we have a microphone array, there's not really.
So you'll get
around
you'll
that
get
unless
feedback.
we only have.
Oh,
one or two mics.
No, can we try to set something up? Because one of the things, I think the most powerful thing that happens in these meetings is the people who present over there. And if someone wants to watch the meeting, no, but you can't see. I want to be able to see their presentations. Like, we've had so many people who've come in here and I want to be able to send it to the other board members and say, look at these great presentations. But you're just listening. It's just audio. People would really like to see the speakers. So can we figure out a way so that when people come up to speak, we can actually, that'll be reflected on the video?
We know that we do have a camera. As to having that as a live feed on the Zoom call, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we can do that, maybe even separate webcams, having two of them do a split screen thing or something.
Setting up a computer facing that way, so it's on the Zoom, or setting up a different
I can ask.
recording. You know, maybe even move from the Zoom model and just have a camera in here, which is what we do at Penridge. We just have one video recording of this.
Or we could start a video production section and have the students.
His son, Peter, and both have some celebrations in true professionalism. They are working things through, doing the best that they can, and making sure that our technology operates. So I want to just, I know that you've done a wonderful job, a lot of pressure, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you.
So, I guess we are on to just, announcements. The next regular JOC board meeting is scheduled for April 20th at 7 PM here and on Zoom. Is somebody trying to speak? My computer died, so.
We did too.
Yeah. No hands, okay, yeah, I can't see the computer anymore. And then we have any joint operating committee concerns?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
We have a very quick executive session.
Oh, we do
Yeah,
have,
you-
yeah, I know that. I already know.
Reminding everybody.
Stay in the room.
I knew it came from myself.
Yeah, we got it.